of AP Studios, not sponsored in any way by Nikon. We welcome everyone who is tuning in across the world and those listening to this recording. We welcome you to get active in the chat, but remind you to please keep it fun and respectful. Also remember that here at AP Studios, you do have a voice and we want to hear from you. Shoot us an email or comment in the chat if you would like to jump in the sandbox with our incredible panel. Now, without further ado, join me in welcoming your host, the man of the people, the oracle of Nikon, and the M&M slayer of the Midwest,
Every time I hear M&M Slayer, I have picture pops in my head of all these dead M&M bodies laying all over the floor, you know?
Yeah. Joey did a great job. I love that, and I appreciate it. That's Joe Man's Land. His channel is Joe Man's Land. Check him out. All right. Joey may pop in here. Wow. Already. Yaman, man, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Wow. I don't even know how to respond to these anymore, but thank you very much. So Jeffrey and Roy are already in here. We have Andy Miller from UK. He's in here as well, but he's finalizing his payment for his Z8 that will be delivered on the 25th. So congratulations, Andy. You already got confirmation. So today we are talking about black and white photography for as long as we can get away with it before Z8 hysteria takes over. But I was just thinking about black and white, and I shoot some black and white. We're not going to talk about black and white film and color film, but more speaking about DSLRs and mirrorless cameras. So I have some questions, and I've already been talking to Roy about it, and he's explained a few things to me. But I want to get everybody's take on, how they shoot black and white, and if they shoot black and white, and is there a reason to shoot black and white, and all those things. So we got Jeffrey Neville in here from Selective Imagery as well. And as I said, Andy Miller, who is busy right now taking care of his Z8 order. So let's see. We've got Ray Powell. I've been responding to some of the comments over here in the chat already. Local experimentalist, UK. Hello.
He's making a bad assumption that we're all earthlings, I mean, it's not necessarily true.
So hello to you as well. This is our European time slot that I do on Wednesdays, so that UK and others can join in after work or whatever and get into the conversation. Ray Powell from Berwick upon Tweed. I love that. I love it. How you doing, Ray?
How you doing?
Rakesh, how you doing, Rakesh? Yesterday I had hands on with the Z8. Oh, cool. That sounds interesting. Great. And I really want to hear about that, what your feelings are, what your thoughts are. Yaman says, don't get me started. Let me put it up here. Yaman says, don't get me started on the Z8 price here. Excuse me. Hang on.
I had to choke on the Z8.
Yeah. So Yaman says he doesn't shoot black and white. He does it in post, black and white in camera. So that's another question that I have is who does what? How do you do it? Do you shoot black and white in camera? If you shoot raw, of course, you can convert it back to color if you like. But anyway, I want to get everybody's ideas on how they shoot in black and white, and is there truth in a black and white sensor, i.e. the Leica M11 or some, I guess, what was it? Fuji cameras you were talking about, Roy?
Yeah, some of them have been converted, and there's a Pentax K3. I don't know if that's out yet, but
okay.
That's going to be one on.
Doesn't Red have a monochrome sensor in one of their models as well?
I don't shoot video enough to know.
Yeah, I don't know, but is there enough of a difference to tempt you?
There is a very slight difference, but it's very marginal.
Because we got into this discussion for just a few minutes on one of the streams, and that came out that You know, the cameras that have the monochrome sensor in them are better than converting to black and white. And I want to get everybody's ideas on, or, you know, comments or on whether that's true or not, or whether they feel that way or not. And because I don't see me buying a monochrome body ever, because I'm happy to convert. And I think it works out well for me, or works out good for me. So anyway, and Yaman says, yeah, but I'm excited for the Pentax K3 Mark III monochrome. That's what you were just talking about, Roy.
I mean,
So there
I
are
think if a
two-
big part of your business, if a part of your business or passion is black and white, then you could probably, in your mind, justify, you know, spending the extra money for a monochrome camera.
That's
But
about the
I
only-
think for a lot of
In
people,
case I'd see a use for it,
yeah, for a lot of people, I
unless
think,
you're really dedicated to black and white.
yeah, they can get away with just changing it over in post or what have you.
There are people and there are cameras. I mean, the Phase 1 IQ monochromatic is an extraordinarily expensive 150 megapixel monster that I know some landscape shooters that put it on the XT body or the Alpha body, and they do an unbelievable things, and they are absolutely clear. It's ahead of the already extraordinary color version, because all the pixels are sending data in black and white. It's cleaner, it's sharper, blah blah blah. It has, they say, a wider optical range.
That is a very specialized camera, though, because it's not a camera that you're going to go walking around doing street photography with. So it's limited to studio, or maybe, as you say, landscape or something like that. That's
Primarily
interesting.
landscape for these guys.
Yeah.
Now come down to the M11 monochrome.
Yeah.
Which is $9,000 just for the camera, and then you put a 15
Painful.
grand lens on the front. You're still walking around with a chunk of change in front of you. But that is the next spec, 61 megapixel, unbelievable thing. Perfect for those guys that love that look and style.
So, but the question is it any better than just converting to black and white? And how much better is it?
So
I know
it's-
that anybody that owns it's going to say it's so much better or whatever. I get that.
It is better in some ways.
Yeah. So the argument, from as I understand it, and I'm not a black and white guy at all, is the black and white sensors can record a wider spectrum of light, electromagnetic spectrum.
Okay.
Light. They go more into the infrared and more into the UV than a chromatic sensor.
Okay.
They're trying to sell very expensive cameras, obviously.
Well,
And people are buying them, but they're not buying thousands, they're buying a few.
yeah.
Right? And that's really the point.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be dedicated to buy a monochrome camera. I mean, you really want that, or you found a need for it or whatever to go that route. So, yeah, it is a niche camera.
I'd be shooting color with it. I'd be using 3 colored filters and converting it back to color. Just to annoy people.
But we know you're crazy already, right?
John Riley, how you doing?
It would be interesting to find someone who owns, let's say, an M11 or whatever, and say, hey, can you take two pictures of the same image, one with your color sensor and one with your M11, and convert the color to black and white, and show us a comparison so we could really see the difference.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting because I got called on the carpet, like I said in one of the streams, when I said, really, it doesn't matter. Like I would know because I've never shot with a monochrome sensor camera.
You're probably going to get better contrast because it's not going through those little colored filters on top of the sensor.
But see, that's one of the things that I was talking about. If I just set my camera up, if I'm going to shoot in black and white, of course, I'm shooting in RAW. I'm still going to get a color JPEG, which is really neat. But the thing about it is I can adjust the contrast and everything in camera before I shoot. And can I mimic the same thing that I would get out of a monochrome sensor? I guess that's my question.
No, I don't think you can. I think it's just the monochrome sensor has a higher sensitivity to certain things, and it's
Better
going to give you a little
dynamic
bit extra range. But the question is, can you like I said, without having somebody do that test where they shoot with two different cameras and see it, it's
The
just
difference in the camera is probably going to be more than the difference in the process.
So Vaughan's guests yesterday are Leica shooters, as I understand it. What you do is you get Leica to send them an M11 monochrome. I'm sure they've got an M11 chromatic,
Yeah.
and do their own test. I'm sure they'd love to do that for you.
Yeah. I may ask them about that, because it is just a question. I just like to settle it in my mind. Again, I'm not going to go out and buy a monochrome sensor camera, but just for sake of the conversation when it comes up again, to be able to say, okay, here's what I know, at least to go check out Lee and Raymond or whatever, if they would be willing to do that, of course. Anybody, if there's somebody out there in the audience now that shoots with a monochrome sensor camera, I'd love to hear from you. And the link is in the chat, folks. You just scroll up and you'll find the link if you'd like to join. And if you're a monochrome expert, man, I need monochrome memoirs in here, don't I?
Tom Hogan was on Paul's photo on a Zoom chat, and he was asked about IR conversions of a Z8. And his feedback was, well, the first thing you get is you lose phase detect. You lose AF, subject detect, sorry.
Yeah.
So there are people already looking at these new backside illuminated sensors and how they can get IR, which is a very specialized infrared.
Yeah, Roy's a
Very,
fan
very
of IR.
I am.
So take your brand new Z9, Roy, or your Z8, and take it to some guy and rip something off the camera that makes the autofocus work.
I'm looking at a red article by Red, and it's saying monochrome sensors, unlike color, capture all the incoming light at each pixel, which does not happen when you have the bare filter.
Okay.
And so therefore each pixel receives up to 3 times more light, since red, green, and blue are all absorbed. So
Up to 4 times actually, because you got each
You got two
block of 4 pixels has got a color filter in front of it.
Yeah. So it says this translates into a 1 to 1.5 stop improvement in light sensitivity.
So Gustavo just asked about black and white for wildlife. I shoot lions a lot when I'm in Africa, and it is absolutely clear to me that, and there's a French bloke whose name will come to me in a minute, who's done whole books, vast books on black and white lions in black and white. And it's quite clear to me that a lion basically has got a fairly boring fur, so it's
Right.
not a leopard or whatever. They come out really, really well. But I only shoot in color, and then I bring it onto the computer, and like Chuck, I go, well, what does it look when I put my wet rocks in silver effect on it?
Yeah.
I'm a lazy black and white converter. I don't go through all the different things. I just go straight into Silver Effect Pro and Silver Effects, whichever one it is now.
Yeah, in Nick collection, yeah.
In the Nick collection, which was free, and it's great.
Yep.
Most of my black and white conversions, I understand the theory, and it's not actually that difficult. You just set the black point and the white point, and then work out the color in between. Or you let Silver Effects do it. And I can't do what this French guy does with his black and white lines. He's found a recipe that really
Yeah. Yeah, I use Silver Effects from time to time. It's a great starting point. You can just scroll through all the filters and find something that's close to what you want, and then you have the option or the ability to tweak it as well. And yeah, I've learned to play with the color palette within black and white to change the contrast and everything else. So yeah, that's kind of fun. But I guess that begins to answer the question, though. A monochrome sensor is going to be more sensitive to light, looking at the contrast and everything else. So the question then I would have is, does it just give me a better starting point? Can I get to that same look in post? I'm not trying to convince anybody of that.
I'm get there, I think.
Okay.
And if you're working in color, you can always put colored filters over the Photoshop image as well to like red, like you used to with film.
Yeah. Okay. And Nick says this is what I like about NX Studio. It doesn't matter what setting you take the photo in, you can change it to what you want in post, no problems. Okay, so that's based on the camera profile and and pulling it up in black and white or changing it to black and white, which mimics the camera profile. Okay. I've never tried that. And this is an interesting comment. And Ray Powell says black and white movies were never as good on colored TVs. You know,
Agreed.
I never noticed that. You know what?
Well, if I really want to wind Chuck up, I'll say that now in Photoshop, there are AI-based, cloud-based AI tools that will colorize black and white. Like they'll put a smile on my face because I never smile.
I've been playing with them. They're
Right?
pretty good.
They are really, really creepy.
I like it.
Okay? They're really, really, really creepy what you can do by just using these new tools.
I have not done that yet, but you
A
know
few
what?
online sites that do it automatically as well.
Yeah.
Man.
And you know, they are surprisingly good. Annoyingly.
Now I've got to go investigate that because I have black and white photos from years past. I would love to just see what does it look like in color. That's great. Huh.
Well,
All right, I'm
I-
already behind. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
I was just going to say, I think I mentioned on a different show that when my kids were young, I paid a guy who shot images in black and white of my children, and then he used the old technique by hand of colorizing the images, and it was fantastic. There's hardly anybody left that does that anymore.
I've never
That's a
been
lot
good
of
with
work.
a tiny brush.
It's a lot of work.
So Seraphin says he likes to keep the viewfinder in color, but have the JPEGs in black and white and do raw for the color. Okay, so that was something I was talking about earlier. I like to shoot from time to time in black and white. As you can tell, I've got black and white photos. Just did it on the photo shoot that we did, shooting in camera black and white, monochrome profile. And I don't know. There's just something about black and white. It doesn't work all the time, and I'll be the first to admit that. But there are certain times when a black and white photo just looks so much better than. I don't know if it highlights the subject or it allows your eyes to focus on certain things that you're shooting or something being in monochrome. But I like to look at the back of the camera, and it helps me to not just frame the photo, but figure out what focal length and everything else I want to shoot at. Seeing it in black and white is just different.
I see it on the back of the screen in black and white. It's easier to judge the lighting.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, it makes a difference if you change your exposure, and it obviously makes a huge difference if you're shooting JPEG or HEIF, as we're supposed to call it now. But if you're in RAW, all you've really got to do is make sure you've not clipped at each end, and then you can fix it later. And yet, I was just looking for this young lady I saw who did a video on shooting in black and white and the benefit she sees when she finds a subject looking through a black and white viewfinder rather than looking at something in a color viewfinder that she then says, well, actually,
you see it differently.
You see it differently.
You do. You absolutely do. I agree.
So I think, and if you look at Peter Coulson in Melbourne, that other Melbourne photographer, his look is black and white. So he's simply looking on the screen at black and white. He's exposing for black and white. He's using good stuff that will shoot anything.
Well, I think he sees in black and white. I think he actually sees in black and white because he has, he's mastered the black and white for what he wants, and he's very good at it. I love watching him go through and tweak, but he's having a problem. The only editing profile he uses or wants to use is the Hasselblad profile. He says he can't get the same look out of a Sony or not Sony.
I agree with him, but I do agree.
Yeah,
the Hasselblad 16-bit when you go to the big ones.
He's shooting Leica, and he did a vid recently P is for professional. He hates automatic settings. Okay, but he was using a Leica, and so he's he's not limited to something. I like his stuff. I like his work. I think he's clearly a busy guy and he does a lot.
Easy on the eyes too.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like a lot of nude art photographers lean to black and white most of the time. I mean, I don't want to say all the time, but
Yeah.
they like that look.
So what is it about black and white that draws us to it? Why do we even care? I mean, now we have color everything. What is it about black and white that still attracts us for some photos, some movies? And I'm an old movie fan, by the way. I love pre-war, post-war black and white movies. I love them. Yaman says black and white conversion services are insanely priced, not worth it. I'd rather buy a dedicated black and white body. As Roy said, the difference is marginal, but it's less time for me in post and more time shooting. Okay, that's okay.
Yeah. If you're doing a lot of black and white, it's the only way to go.
Yeah. And I'm trying to get through them here pretty quick, guys. Let me roll through these real quick and we'll stop where we need to. I feel like black and white photography forces a photographer to be more creative and precise because you can't hide imperfections behind garish color distractions. I see that too. I can see that as well. You're right, because imperfections stand out because you have black and white. You don't have anything else to mask other things that are going on in the photo, especially with models, man. This is where in black and white, you're going to do some post-production unless you're just shooting somebody that's an old seaman on the seashore with a wrinkled face that looks like a prune that makes an exceptionally great photo, by the way. Black and white is
I'll be shooting in color and very close to black and white instead of going fully black and white.
I think there's different issues with color and people and skin tones. And I don't find that at all easy. And black and white. So if I wanted to shoot black and white output, I would take the picture in black and white, as in I would use a black and white profile, and I'd look for that subject and composition to work in black and white. If I'm shooting, which is what Peter does with his models,
right?
He's all about that. And this young lady who I can't find is walking through the woods, looking for things that really had very high contrast, dynamic range in black and white. That's what she was looking for.
Yeah.
In color, if I just pick on Jeff for a second, those two yellow things behind you, Jeff, are distracting. And so you'd say, well, actually, what he should be doing is mute them a bit in terms of the balance between him, the subject, being the focus, and the back. Maybe with this new portrait emphasis, we can get that in the camera.
Would you say? I'm probably going to misspeak here. There's some photographers that specialize in minimalist photography. Where you just have that one subject in the frame, and you're focused on that. And in a way, I think black and white does that too. Like you said, it gets rid of distractions. If you got a color photo and you got some horrible garish looking color of a garbage can next to somebody or near somebody in black and white, it's not that big. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I'm going to pull this photo up I've got on the screen back here so everybody can look at it. This photo, and the only thing I've done is just in Photoshop, you changed it to black and white. No other editing going on just yet. But this is from 2012, some street photography down in New York City. I like the shot because so many people are on their cell phone. It just interested me that everybody's at the corner waiting to cross the street, but most people can't be bothered. They're too busy on their phones. Now, why I bring this up is in black and white, it actually accentuates that. In color, it gets lost. I mean,
you'd be distracted by the falafel sign, which would be horrible.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for the next shot of the dump truck that wipes out those four guys.
Yeah.
Well, that might look better in color, though.
Yeah, that would. Yeah.
Yeah, true
Make
enough.
John Issue happy.
Yeah, exactly. John would be there. Got to find the dead guy.
You got to find the bodies. Yeah.
But yeah, this is as I was going through. I haven't done anything to it, like I said. This is how it was left on the in when I just uploaded the images. I did a quick switch to black and white, and I thought, man, that looks so much better or interesting than the color version of it. So, I mean, there is one of the reasons that I do like black and white photography from time to time. And I'm not going to say I'm one of those people who wants to shoot in black and white all the time, but there is a case for it. And what is it that intrigues us when we see in black and white? I don't know.
So there's obviously the
Equalises all the
vintage.
people as well.
Sorry, yeah.
It makes everyone equal rather than different colours.
Yeah, yeah,
I think you know the halcyon days, the vintage, the pictures you remember or I remember when we were growing up were all black and white to start.
Yeah.
There is, as others have said, that film noir style, high contrast, lots and lots of black, basically, and white. You know, the lady or gentleman under a floodlight late at night is a fairly repeatable shot that we've all probably taken. When I did a series around walking around the South Bank of London, that was all in black and white, pretty much when I finished my process. So, and fine art is often in black and white. Fine art.
yeah.
I do the big quotes, you know.
Right.
You have to. And when I did a course at Epson's printing lab here in the UK with some guys who took us through how you do that, and it's wonderful what you can get out. So there you go.
Yeah, we talked about this comment already a minute ago. I don't know if it's based or if it was posted before we talked about, but you talked about the lion and the difference in contrast with the lion being so much more plain that often it looks great in black and white. But we'll readdress it again. But there is a buzz, folks. It's not so annoying that we can't live through it. Shoot, Andy
let me mute myself to see if it's my end because we were
All
having sound issues.
Yep.
No, it'd
So-
be me.
But we're not going to make Andy go troubleshoot and miss the opportunity to chime in here. So I hope everybody can bear with it. He's not going to be in here for a long time anyway. He's got to rush off to Grays to pay for his Z8 that they've already.
I pay for it. It's coming.
He's got his priorities straight. Let's put it that way. He's got his priorities straight.
So back to this with a quick address of this comment. I'd like to know Andy and Jeff's views on doing black and white for wildlife photography. You guys want to hit that real quick?
So just to
Gustavo?
go back,
I like infrared wildlife.
There's
Some
a-
guy that does it in Africa.
there's a French photographer, Laurent something, who's done a massive series of black and white shots, and you can buy these coffee table books, and they're absolutely wonderful. And so I said, well, can I mimic that? And the answer was sort of. Nowhere near what he does. He's a good guy. So some subjects lend themselves to black and white. If I showed you the Ambercelli elephants, which come out of the mud,
Oh
there's
yeah.
white,
They're great to start
everybody
with.
does
though.
the same processing, and you end up in a wonderful black and white life anyway when you take the photo, let alone when you process it. So there are many subjects, but when you talk wildlife, you've got to talk about these birds that have got bright plumage. You've got to talk about animals who you want to see the fact that the leopard is an old leopard, so is a darker brown rather than lighter white. You want to see the color of the tongue being pink, not that. You want to see the colors of the eyes, which are various forms of yellow brown. It's the same with owls. It's the same with all other things. I'm not somebody that would do a black and white overlay and leave the red fingertips and the red eyes, but I know people that do.
Yeah.
Selective
But-
color. Yeah.
It's about your creative intent.
Selective imagery, man.
It's selective imagery now. Do those crocodiles in black and white. Yeah. So it's about that. You know, some birds go different colors when they're in mating season, right? When they're ready to mate.
Yeah.
Some birds No, it's the green flesh. It's the green fleck
Mhm.
on a heron. It's etc. So it's really about what do you want to show. You know,
Yeah,
and
and for wildlife photography and bird photography, yeah, I can understand why there are images, but the thing about it is there was once upon a time when we had nothing but black and white, and and we'd look at those images all day long because we understand that that's all that was available at the time. But once color film came about, and now, of course, today with the mirrorless cameras and DSLRs, we've got all the color we want. So many wildlife photographers want to show the natural or the animal or bird in its natural habitat, and part of that is the color scheme that goes along with it. So, yeah, but I see black and white photography for wildlife now being wildlife art, and oh shoot, Gutrin in Kenya. He's done some black and white photos that are just out of this world.
Sure.
Especially, he's done some night photography using headlights on vehicles and things like that that lend so well to black and white, and they're just incredible photos. So there is a time and a place for it yet, but yeah, it's not one of those things that I would stick to all the time. But Jeffrey, I'll give you a chance real quick to chime in.
Well, Andy covered it perfect. I mean, it depends on your subject. Are you in a high key lighting situation? Are you, if you're talking elephants, you're talking, just different shades of gray and black. Certain subjects are gonna really look good in black and white. Now, for me, I don't consciously try to take pictures of birds in black and white, because in some cases, if you're taking a picture of a male and a female of a bird, I mean, sometimes the only difference is a little bit of a color change. So if you don't shoot it in color, you won't know whether you're looking at the male or the female if you do it in black and white.
Right.
And then I'm one that if I'm doing, I call it bird portraiture. If I'm doing a static shot of a bird, I'm always looking to blur the background out wherever I can and get that nice color graduation in color, especially in the early morning light. And I want to capture that color. I certainly would not want that in black and white. I mean, I want to see those different oranges and yellows, progress through the background behind that bird in the foreground. But if I go and I do what I still like to do once in a while and try to find an old farm or something like that, an old dilapidated barn, old farm equipment, old broken down trucks on the farm. Oh, you darn right. I'd either convert or shoot that in black and white. I would do both. I mean, I'd probably shoot it in color and then convert it to black and white and probably keep both copies. But
Yeah.
For birds, I tend to just stick with the color.
Yaman's got to go. I hope he's still here. Yaman, I love you being in here, man. And I got to get you on the program. You're always such a fantastic viewer and chatter, but we got to get you on the program. We got to get more people on the show. We need to meet everybody, digitally meet everybody anyway. So, all right. Yeah.
There's another advantage to black and white is dropping filters in front of the lens, like a red filter to brighten up the skin and darken the sky, and things like that are very useful. Drop a green filter over it, and
so that's what
the actual look of the whole thing.
That's what you get to do in Photoshop too, and it may not be the same. And I'd be curious, yeah, where you put the color filters. They have the choice at the bottom: blue, yellow, green, red, whatever. And I use that because that will bring out something that I didn't notice before, just by applying one of the. I'll go through all the filters and look at them and figure out, okay, what works best for this photo. So that is interesting. But that was in the film days, and I remember people that had boxes full of those color filters to go on the lens.
I still
especially had dramatic changes to your sky.
Yes,
yep.
That's really where it mattered, was your sky.
So we're just doing it digitally in post now. Okay. Oh man.
Same system, but more Photoshop than filters now.
Yeah,
There's a whole debate, isn't there, about using neutral grad filters to block off and even out the tones in reality, or just doing it in Photoshop or Lightroom.
I gave up those years ago.
And
There's
it's
always going to be
still
a
live.
tree in the way.
It's still live. And there are people getting fantastic results who want to spend the time to do that right.
yeah.
Okay. Whereas I just hit the 5-button HDR and fix it later.
So do I.
I, I've got bags and boxes full of these filters in places. I have ruined pictures putting colored gradients in them before. And so for me, if I was ever going to do that, I will use a neutral grad or something. A neutral filter. But I can't remember when you use an orange filter or a red filter or a yellow filter or green or whatever. I can't remember.
Except in Photoshop.
We used to know it. We used to know it completely.
Yeah.
Now,
Photographers
don't do it
knew.
anymore.
Yeah, photographers knew exactly which filter they needed for a certain situation because they were shooting that all the time. And a lot of people will see these filters and think they're hokey nowadays. You know, the whatever filters that are out there, and think, well, why would I put a red? They have no idea what that does. They think it's going to change the whole photo to red or whatever. So I think it's interesting. That's one of those lessons in photo history that people ought to go check out. Because it will help you in post-processing, especially if you're going to do black and white photos, I think.
So, Roy, are you using an IR filter when you're shooting IR, or you're using an IR conversion?
I've got both. I still use the filter as well.
Yeah, because you're basically shooting through a blackish filter that lets the infrared through. That's the difference.
It's not easy because the IR filter is so dark.
Yeah,
it's easier to compose everything before you put it on.
I mean, when you think about it, not necessarily with filters, but in Ansel Adams, his work, so much of that was the magic he did in the darkroom.
Yeah.
I mean, not magic he did with filters. It was dodging and burning and things he did in the darkroom.
Yep.
So, Louis Serafin asks, can you have a split? Well, if you shoot in RAW, the RAW file comes color on a color sensor. And you can pick a color profile, do monochrome, black and white if you wish, up to you. And if you do that, the JPEG will be in black and white.
But he's saying that you can see it in the viewfinder. The viewfinder is in black and white.
You can do
Not
that
on a Nikon.
For lighting, mostly.
Not on a Hasselblad, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, it's interesting because that I think would be even more spectacular. Maybe that's a feature Nikon needs to add, is the ability to do that, to set the camera to monochrome and have a switch, because I would like to actually frame and look or walk around looking in black and white through the viewfinder.
But why would you want a color JPEG when you don't know what colors you're looking at? Worry me about the shots you showed before. I'm sure that falafel sign was horrible, because they normally are bright and ugly. And so if you got a JPEG that's horrible and nasty, why would you want it?
Yeah,
I would want the black and white one if I had black and white in my intentions.
well, yeah, I want to see the black and white on the screen and review as well. But I like the idea of being able to see through the viewfinder in black and white.
But you can by pressing a button.
Can you? Okay.
Yeah.
You can view it in black and white and save as RAW. The RAW is going to be color.
Okay. That's it. Okay.
I'm fairly sure you can do a shooting recall hold on a Z9 that says, give me a black and white profile.
Okay.
Fairly
I gotta
sure.
check it
I'll
out.
look it up in a minute. But,
Man, I'm learning all kinds of stuff today. Learning all kinds of stuff today. And I didn't skip over. I had his comment up here, but Kevin Nordstrom said he's talking about the
Macro shots, using black and white for macro, I think.
well, he was talking about the emotion that you get from a black and white photo, and I agree with that. It does evoke sometimes more than a color photo. I'll agree with that.
yeah, I think when you shoot elephants, for example, firstly, they take on the color of whatever mud they've rolled in.
Yep.
The elephants and rhinoceri in particular look really great in a high contrasty look. and that really comes out in black and white.
Yeah.
Certain birds with certain high
So
contrast patterns, like eagles, they come out really well in black and white. But I like the eyes of birds of prey. I just think they're really, really telling a story. They're bright and you can see them.
I think black and white for some of the animals, like you were talking about, an elephant, rhino, or others that aren't as colorful or whatever. I like the drama that comes out of the black and white because of the contrast and seeing every scar, every wrinkle, every whatever. I think that's fantastic. And not that you can't see it in color, but you don't see it as well in color, I think.
Good for hiding people's
Zebras
images.
always look good in black and white. Zebras always look good in black and white.
Yeah, and here's his comment. I didn't do a good job of repeating it. Black and white photos bring out a certain emotion and mood that color can't do. Yeah, I mean, if it's the right photo for black and white, I think that's where we sometimes might struggle. Is this a black and white photo or is this a color photo opportunity?
So in Kenya, I shoot the plains common zebras a lot, and a few other types. And really, what you want is the contrast between a pure black and white subject on grass of various colors under the blue sky. And so this is about contrast as much as it is. So yes, okay, you have a nice tone of grass and you have a nice tone of sky, black and white, black and white, black and white, that's one thing. But if you've got a yellow grass and a blue sky and a black and white subject, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
And black and white is never black and white. A lot of zebras are actually brown, have a brown stripe, which sometimes doesn't come out. Sometimes the black, gray, white stripes. So it's all about seeing something and going, okay, what might it look like if I process it this way? What might it look like if I process that way? And then what do you do with that image? Well, I post it onto Flickr and I print some. The guys that sell their images for mythical numbers really, really pull it out and spend a lot of time on their images. I spend 30 seconds, they spend 5 days. So you bet your life they'll have gone through that creative conversation with themselves to say, okay, what's this one going to look like?
So is it safe to say that with a monochrome sensor and you're shooting in 14 or 16 bit, that what we're really seeing is the full range of white to black, so many shades of gray in there, and that's what makes the difference.
And
That's the difference.
phase one argue beyond the visible spectrum. Yeah. And
I don't care about that
you
bit.
a £50,000 camera when they make that statement, right?
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure Leica shooters who have bought the M11 monochrome have been sold on or accept the argument that A, that's the Leica look they want to achieve, but B, they get a better outcome.
Yeah.
And so be it. Fine. And the guys that talked about, was it a Pentax or I couldn't remember, camera that's coming in black and white?
Yeah.
We'll have the same debate.
Yeah.
And those that buy it are the only people who should have a view, right? Because other people have or chosen not to buy it, but have bought the color version. Everybody else, right? If you buy it, you're committed to it.
Yeah. So this goes along with Chris's comment. You have to learn to see the world in shades of gray. I agree with that.
When I was much younger, and this won't go over well, but it's what people used to say. I mean, I'm going back a long time. It used to be if ideal you don't go out and shoot at high noon. That's like the worst time to go take pictures. But the joke used to be, well, if you're shooting at that hour of the day, that time of the day, convert it to black and white. At least you'll have a usable shot.
Well, Roy and I talked about that before everybody else got in here. That's the old fallback. Why'd you convert it to black and white? Well, I'm not going to tell you that I overexposed it. And
you're going to say you had a vision. You had a vision, but it was
black and white can save the day on a must-have photo. So yeah, Oh man, I've done that. I'm not gonna lie. You know, it's like, man, I can't make anything of it, so let's just convert it to black and white. Oh wow, that works.
Might as well throw it out there. It doesn't make us look good, but that's the reality. That people do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man. All right, so hey, folks, anybody got any comments or questions for Andy? He's going to have to take off here in about 5 or 10 minutes. If you guys have any comments for him, just go ahead and throw them in the chat. Let me scroll on down so I don't miss those. I hate to pass up comments, as you guys know, but it's just impossible to get every one of them in here if we're going to talk about the comments. So David Stewart, here you go. I'm producing more in black and white with my full spectrum D750 than before. That being said, sometimes full spectrum looks good in color. So Roy?
Yeah.
What is
I've got a, I do the same, yeah.
just for those of us that don't
I
know,
agree.
what is full spectrum?
Full spectrum, I prefer infrared to ultraviolet, but I'll work either way.
But what is it?
What is full? What is full spectrum?
Full spectrum means you can, there's a filter in front of your sensor that blocks off IR and ultraviolet light.
So you have to have a
take that
conversion.
and put
You have to have it
glass in.
converted,
You have to have
remove
a
it.
conversion. Okay,
That's a conversion. Then you can see, then the camera can actually see the
But
extended
so you remove the
light
UV filter
spectrum.
and the IR filter, which creates noise and other crud on
Mm.
a normal Bayer filter. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. We've been having a lot of discovery conversations with the folks testing the Z8, battery life, video life, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Don't want to cover any of that. It's early days. Tom Hogan's book will be out in a week, he thinks. Steve Perry is going to come out with a book fairly soon on settings. Matt Granger's already got a course on settings on
Of course
the
he
Z8
has.
already. And he's done a whole bunch of tests that I don't want to believe. But that's because I
Yeah,
don't like
so-
all that.
Yeah. You know what? There are a lot of the people that have actually done some testing with the camera. And it's one of those things that you can make it sound like, the camera's a total flop, or you can say that those situations will most likely never come up, because if you're going to push it to the limits, then how many people are actually going to do that in normal use? So that's a good conversation to have. And we're going to get into that here in a bit. But I just wanted to, for all those that get tired of all the Z8 talk or the Z9 talk, and I could talk about it for hours, as Roy knows.
Yes.
But yeah.
Chuck,
Andrew,
an interesting poll question would be: do a poll question and say how many people shoot video for more than 5 minutes
Yeah.
at a clip. How many shoot more than 5 minutes at a clip?
Well,
Unless you're a movie maker, you probably don't.
Well,
Absolutely.
this is going to derail the chat but I'm going to make this comment. I said this the other day. How many people are standing there holding a camera for 2 hours when it comes to doing video? Because this gets into the battery life issue. With the ability to have a USB power source with that power only slot, USB-C slot, there is no power issue that solves it. Or if like I said, because people would say, well, what am I going to do with the power bank if I have it connected to it or whatever, or power delivery for, alternative power. Again, you're not holding the camera for 2 hours. It's going to be on a tripod. I don't care. Use some gaffer's tape it to the leg of the tripod. I mean, I'm being a little bit facetious, but the bottom
Stand
line,
next to your camera and stick it in your shirt pocket.
yeah, or so a lot of these things have workarounds, and we're not considering that. The people that are reviewing and coming up with this don't want to talk about the possible workarounds because they want the drama involved to draw a crowd and to spark conversation. So that's what we get to do on this end, is look at what they're actually producing as far as the reviews go, and talk about, are we ever going to do that, and what's the workaround if you ever have to do that. So yes. So we'll get into that in a bit, and I know I already have comments, I'm sure, coming in somewhere.
Well, there's a big difference too. If you're what you just said. There's a big difference. If you're using an external battery pack, then the battery in the camera is not generating any heat because you're not using the battery in the camera, number one. So that's going to make things better. And then some people have suggested pull the LCD screen out from the body of the camera a little bit, and that helps a little bit too with temperature control.
Well,
so,
there's so many things, and let's get into it in a bit. I want to try to get through the black and white photography. We got plenty of time to go into that too, Jeffrey. I'm not trying to cut you off, but we got a great conversation going about black and white photography. I'm learning some things, and I really appreciate learning some of these things. And Andy's got to go. Everybody say goodbye to Andy. Andy,
take care, Andy.
Bye.
Have a good one.
All right. So, let's get into that in a bit. And I
know somebody mentioned something about sepia as well. You have all those different choices to make. Sepia looks like, obviously it looks like some picture from the 20s or the 30s. You get that yellow tinge to it.
Even, there are filters even for like plate photos and things like that. So and those can be interesting as well. It's one of those things you want to do it on a limited basis or whatever, no doubt about that, unless you're going to be known as the guy that does all sepia processing. And that's okay. If you're really good at it and you're known for it. Gustavo suggests, he says, for the next photo review, June 3rd, the theme could be for black and white images. I think that's a good idea. I think it's a real good idea. I don't know if it's too late now to, whatever, it's 17th to, I don't know. Maybe I'm going to think about that. Maybe Saturday night we'll announce, because I will be talking about the photo review coming up. Maybe we will do a black and white challenge just to see. And again, we're not going to hold people to that if you don't have a black and white photo that you want to. But anyway, I'll get into it Saturday. But thanks, Gustavo. I like that idea. I like that. All right. Joe, your raw file in a Nikon camera, and I'm sure it is otherwise as well. Other brands
Always in color.
Yeah, it's in color. Yeah, so you can always go back to, and I found a function in Photoshop now where it allows you to go back to Bridge while you're in Photoshop. If you want to go back to Bridge and go back to, if you don't convert it to black and white in Photoshop, but convert it in Bridge, it gives you a good starting point. And you can also go back to color there if you're in Photoshop. I don't know. I'm trying to sort out my thought process here. If you're in black and white in Photoshop, you can go back to Bridge. It allows you to go back and make changes. So you can go back to color in Bridge. And if you want to change some of the colors or some of the whatever, and then go back to black and white and go back into Photoshop, I like that. I really like being able to jump back and forth between the color and the black and white if you want to make adjustments. So it is still in color.
Well, if I'm in Lightroom, what I would do is I'd bring it in color, and then I would just make a virtual copy of that file.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I would convert it to a black and white, and then I would tweak it, and I would have two versions. I'd have my color version and my black and white version.
Yeah.
Or just use layers.
Yeah.
Let's see. Light and composition were the origins of photography. Absolutely. I mean, the bottom line is photography is nothing but light. If you want to, cut to the roots, that's it. That's all it is light. It's capturing light. So just because technology improves doesn't mean that the roots of the art are lost. No, absolutely. I agree with you. And again, black and white does provoke emotions often. It provokes emotions more so than color often. And there's absolutely a place for black and white photography still today. Obviously, so many people can continue to shoot in black and white. So, yeah. Let me see. Let me go on down. Joe. Yeah, we talked about that. And I know that conversation came up. Yeah, we do. it would be interesting to have somebody come in and explain the old filters over lenses for film shooting days and black and white film. Cooley's in here now. All right. I'm trying to move on here.
Mike Porter from Alaska's here.
Stuart Moore from Berlin. Welcome. Glad to see you in here. I hope you're enjoying the show, and continue to check in with us, or and add any comment that you like and any question that you have while you're here. But welcome. I think this is not one of the first, but one of the first from Germany. Great.
I like Nick. I'm going to pronounce his name wrong. Kuchera.
Yeah.
I've used black and white to remove the green stains on the wedding dress.
Oh man. And I've said this so many times, Comp, that I'm even tired of saying it, because people talk about processing photos, but it seems to be okay if it's done in black and white with dodging and burning, but you can't do anything today in post to change a photo. It is interesting, because I said the same thing. If he had modern technology, he may have had one or two Apple screensavers. Absolutely. I agree with you. And we've talked to people that shoot film, and they love what they did and everything else. It's not everybody that's so I can't leave film, and DSLRs and mirrorless will never take the place of film cameras. On the contrary, there are a lot of people that say, I'm glad that we moved past that. And Roy, you've kind of said that before.
Mm.
Joe McNally said, I asked him, I said, would you go back to film? He said, oh, hell no. No way.
Too much work. I gave away my enlarger and most of my darkroom stuff.
He can't afford in a business nowadays unless it's your niche thing, and people love that niche. You usually can't afford to do that. It's just too cost prohibitive and takes you too long. And when you're doing all that extra work, you could be out making more money.
But I think what this does is it lets you know that technology isn't all bad. When you've got people that had to go through that process and go through film, and especially photojournalism, as he talked about it, what a pain it was and everything else, then they appreciate where technology is. And but a lot of people want to act like they're not happy with technology and they want to go back to the old days. Well, I don't know. Maybe you're somebody that just dabbled in it. But for those that literally worked in film, for the most part, they're happy to be where we are with technology. So
I'm one of them.
Yeah, it's a job. And of course the cost then was what it was. You didn't know there was anything different. You just paid the price for film and processing, whether you did it on your own or whatever. But today the cost has gone up incrementally to shoot film. And a lot of people do just for the fun of still shooting film. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But I don't think we're going to have a moment in time where we're going to throw technology away and go all the way back to film. And those days are gone, and now it's an opportunity to just enjoy film if you want to. And I like shooting black and white film, by the way. And I've got a couple of photos that I took and actually printed. Yes, I printed them on a homemade enlarger in my garage with all the chemicals and everything else. So yeah, and it was a fun process, but I got to tell you, I wouldn't want to be doing that daily. Not at all.
No.
All right.
Finding some space in your house where you don't have windows, or you could cover up all the windows to get everything dark enough. And oh my God, what a pain.
Don't remind me.
Roy, did you
chemical burns?
Yep. So I bought powder and just mixed my own. I don't know if everybody did that or they bought the liquid, but nowadays, when I was doing it, it was hard for them to ship any liquid anymore. So, it had to be powder. Roy, which filter do you use for ultraviolet? Is what David Stewart's asking.
It's called a UV pass filter. A UV filter lets light through, but not UV. A UV pass filter blocks visible light and lets the UV through.
Yeah, they had Netflix. I was talking to David on the phone the other day, and they had Netflix really has some good nature shows, some of which they produced, and forked over the money for. But they had a series about nighttime, capturing images at night, and then part of it was too getting the distinctive colors of flowers on how they look in UV light. The color you get from
some things
UV
look
light.
totally different under UV light.
I mean, and that was some really incredibly beautiful stuff when they hit it with UV light. It was
Wow.
Some fruits look totally different as well.
Yeah.
J-Rod is a conversionist. Doesn't specifically shoot in black and white, but he did say above that he does change some photos to black and white. Yeah, just there's just sometimes it just works in black and white. And Mike Porter, hello from Alaska. Sorry it took me so long to get down here. One of the things if you frequent the channel, one of the things you'll see is I get so far behind in the comments because I want everybody to have an opportunity to hear or see their comment or get an answer or whatever. And you're welcome to ask or comment yourself. But thanks for being in here. Hope you'll become part of the family. All right, I'm going to drop the link again at the bottom. Anybody that would like to join, by all means, join. That's what this channel's all about. Been saying it for 2 years now. You can be live as well on the panel. All right.
Jason Michaels Photography says he says so always shoot JPEG fine, maximum megapixels and raw, and then I can change everything in post. So you can always change everything in post.
Yeah, I think that's that started the show really is is it okay to convert color to black and white, or is it better to have a monochrome sensor? And if it's better to have a monochrome sensor, how much difference is there, which we talked about earlier? There is a difference, but is it enough for you to go buy a monochrome only body?
Not for me.
Yeah. Especially if it's a Leica.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I think it's fantastic that the Leica M11 is fantastic from what I've seen, but I'm just not going to fork out that kind of money right now. If I was independently wealthy, yeah, I'd probably buy one. Why not?
It's got a use though. It's got a people that are shooting black and white all the time will buy that camera.
Yeah.
Yep. So Van Lee says, if I want to shoot black and white, I set the picture controlling camera first in order to not forget converting in Lightroom. Okay. And that's what I do. I if I'm going to shoot in black and white, I want to see the results as I'm taking photos in black and white. So shooting in RAW, and this is one of those times for certain that I do shoot in RAW for those that know I'm a JPEG person. But I do shoot in RAW and JPEG at the same time when I'm going to shoot in black and white because it gives me that flexibility. All right. We've got Cooley just joined us.
Hey guys, what's up, man?
Cooley Priestley. How you doing, Cooley?
I am doing awesome. The sun's out. My deck's almost done.
There you go. All right.
Oh, and my daughter's calling.
All right.
Hey, what's up?
Here you go. This one's for you. This one's for you. I'll just mute Mr. Cooley while he's on the phone. Roy, did you answer this yet with David?
I
Or
forgot
anybody
what
else?
I've used. I've got the brand, but they're fairly easy to find on eBay and that UV pass filters.
Okay.
Mm.
Anybody
IR
else?
pass filters. I've got a range of IR pass filters because there's all different frequencies you might want to filter out.
Okay. Carl, this has been the big conversation that we've had here is there enough difference? But as we talked about earlier, Let me bring Cooley back in. He seems to be off the phone. There you
Yes.
go. Digital cameras don't give you the same tonal quality that black and white film give you because of the filters on the sensor. You have to spend a lot of money to buy a dedicated black and white digital camera. Okay, so you've heard us talking so far, Carl. We're all in agreement there. And yeah, I just posed the question, are you going to buy a monochrome camera or just convert? And how much difference is there? And we understand that, yes, as Roy was talking about earlier and Andy Miller was talking about, you know, Hasselblad has a dedicated monochrome block as well. And at 16-bit with the multi-millions of shades of gray, I can see where that would make a difference. Yes.
Especially 16.
I would still love to see someone shoot with you know, if they, well, like Leica has, you know, a model with the color sensor and a model
There'd
with
be
the
probably more
monochrome
difference in the cameras than there would be between the conversion.
Yeah. I mean, take same picture with both and convert one, and one doesn't need conversion, and show them side by side.
Well,
But
that's just it.
most people aren't going to have two of those cameras though, too. So
Right. Yeah. Hey, let me throw this up here. My brother. Okay, so my bride is coming home. They're driving back from Raleigh today, and he says he's enjoying the podcast. They're north of Richmond. Okay, so that sounds great. They'll be here sometime this evening. Looking forward to seeing my bride. I flew my brother to Raleigh to drive her back because she's not a fan of my driving.
okay.
So anyway. All
my
right,
wife never liked to get in the car with my dad when my dad was driving.
Oh,
he
man.
drives too fast. I'm like, no, he doesn't. You drive too slow. That's
Yeah, I'm accused of maybe going too fast. I don't think so, but anyway, he's more conservative in his driving, so she feels better with him driving. So there you have it. Stuart Moore asks, what sort of effect does a red filter and a yellow filter have on black and white photography? You know, you can't mimic it exactly for film, and I'm going to let Roy have this in just a minute. And
you can do the same thing in Photoshop, but you put a red filter over it and it brightens up your skin and it darkens up the sky, so it makes it more dramatic.
So this is the way we did it before Photoshop, when we had film, black and white film, or yeah. Oh, it doesn't have to be black and white, does it, Roy?
No, it doesn't.
No.
So you can actually go into Photoshop and take a black and white photo into Photoshop
and color one into black and white into Photoshop, put the filter over it as if I would with film.
Okay.
And then you convert it to black and white afterwards.
Okay.
To get the same effect. You can't put a colored filter over the black and white one to do it. It doesn't work.
It says on a black and white, a yellow filter on a black and white.
Use the yellow filter over the color.
Blues up a lot,
and
then your greens are a little bit. I think are a little bit muted. They're not as green.
That's right. So if you put green filter, it brightens up all the green colors. But you're putting these filters in Photoshop over the color one, then converting to black and white.
So what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. That's the problem here. I need a Steven, as I've said many, many times. I'm trying to watch chat, trying to watch something else going on over here and the other feed. And man, all right. So let me just forget about whatever it was I was going to say. Thank you, Roy, for at least explaining that, and Jeffrey. And Chris is saying, monochrome cameras have their own unique picture profile. Agreed. I think we all agree there. If you like the outcome, then you should buy it. Yeah. And that was the comment. That was the discussion a little bit earlier as well. Mm-hmm. If you can afford to buy it, then buy it. I mean, if you really want to pursue black and white even more, you're probably going to get better results if you're a black and white shooter and buying a monochrome sensor camera. But for most of us, we're stuck with converting to black and white. So we just got to figure out how to do that the best way possible.
What were they selling the new monochrome Pentax for? Wasn't that like Was it like $3,500 or something?
I do not know.
I don't know. I didn't follow it. So
I
Yeah.
also looked that up because I think it was like seriously cheaper than the Leica.
it would have
Big
to
time.
be. It would be.
Imagine that.
What a,
No
what a
sense of
surprise.
change the black and white. They scrape off the little
Hey,
coloured.
Mozman's in. He said $2,500. Okay, there we go.
There you go. 2,500
Save
bucks.
me looking it up, Mozman.
So Yaman was talking about that. He's looking forward to that camera coming out because I think he's really interested in it.
Yeah, I think he is.
For me, and I'm not saying this is everybody or even any other body. For me, it would drive me crazy walking around with a black and white camera. I'd have to have two bodies because I'd always
I
be
do
afraid
anyway.
there's going to be this color opportunity that I want. And here I am with nothing but a black and white. That's just me, though, folks.
I'm going to add to an answer that Jason Michael got on, what's good to take on overcast days. Believe it or not, some bird photography is great on overcast days. You're not worrying about blowing out the highlights on a great egret, and lots of times you may have a great egret next to a darker colored bird. So you got, one bird's dark, one bird's bright white. If it's overcast, man, that's perfect. You're going to get both birds looking good in the picture. You're not screwing around with exposure compensation, this, that, and the other. I was out today and it rained. I took pictures this morning of birds and it started to rain, but I got great egrets flying, with tree line behind them, overcast day, exposure on the bird was perfect. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to worry about blinkies or anything else. So don't be scared to do bird
Sometimes the colours a
photography.
bit off though, and overcast. It'll be a bit more blue.
It wasn't, it was a partly cloudy day. Sometimes is a godsend, believe me.
It's easier.
Ray, as Ray's saying, next overcast day, he lives on the coast, but next time he'll give black and white a try. Yeah, experiment with it, Ray. You may find something that you're really fond of. And overcast days, and I'll agree, fog and things like that, that just black and white, it just accentuates the emotion in the photo. And a rainy day.
It's more fun.
Yeah. And yep. I hear someone whining in the background. Somebody
It's
wants
me.
to go out or somebody wants to play.
Probably my dogs.
Oh, I thought it was you, Jeffrey. I thought your puppy was wanting to go
No,
out.
she's got her head down on her binky underneath, right in front of my feet under my computer desk. I can't stick my feet under the desk because she's there, but she's being nice and calm. And usually, when your show comes on, she decides that's when she wants to play with the ball. But today, I played with the ball for an hour before your show, so I wore her out.
Okay. Hey, Luis, don't worry. You'll have to go back and check out the first hour because there's been a lot of good conversation about black and white, monochrome bodies only, and things like that you may want to catch up on if you're interested in black and white.
But with all this talk you've had, Chuck, which is great on the black and white, it's going to make me go back and find some of my color shots where I got pictures of birds when it was foggy out.
Yep.
And convert
Buildings
them
are
to
good
black
too.
and white and see how they look.
Buildings are
man.
very good in black and white.
Buildings, yeah. So Maz says that the Pentax is also a crop sensor. Okay. Is that going to make a difference for anybody that was interested in the camera? I don't know.
I'm no more interested now than I was before.
Oh, and Joe Stroud says, I would like the Pentax if it wasn't a crop sensor. Have no use for crop sensor. All right, Joe.
Again, you're buying a dedicated black and white camera, so
Yeah.
unless you got use for it, it's pretty hard to justify, isn't it?
Yep.
Was that the voice in my head?
Unless you just really enjoy it, and maybe it's okay if it's a crop sensor and at $2,500. And I say this, I know that that's a lot of money, but for some people that are into cameras, that's not going to be so expensive that it would keep them from buying it. So
Some people have clients that only want black and white images. So
yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah.
Mm.
And there's still a
what the-
place
that's
for
what the-
black and white in product photography, isn't
Mm.
there?
Yeah. Phase one, that's what the phase ones are all about.
Hmm.
I
good when
thought
you
I
just
heard
change the
Joe
back
one
though.
night scream, "Holy crap!"
Holy crap, Batman!
Holy crap, man!
Yeah.
So, are you guys doing any wide format printing with these black and whites you're making and stuff, or prints in general, or?
I have a couple of black and white photos that I have printed. I showed one the other night. It just doesn't come across well. I've got to find the actual print. It's on the other hard drive to bring up because, well, anyway.
If you're shooting film and printing it with an enlarger, the black and white lasts much longer than the color.
Yeah, see, I like that. That is cool.
So this is
It has like that James Dean feel to it, you know.
Yeah,
my
I'm surprised Marlboro or somebody didn't call you up for an ad campaign on that one.
Well, I wish honestly, I wish we had stopped, pulled over, and because I shot that out a car window when we were going downtown to do street photography. I wish I'd have stopped.
Hope you weren't driving at the time.
Yeah, happened to be a passenger, thank goodness. I wish I had stopped and got a release from him, maybe, but I didn't because he's wearing Beats headphones too. And you know how much Beats would like to have that photo because this guy is so photogenic, and it just worked out fantastic, the photo. But yeah, I did that in 30 by 40 format, Cooley. And my stepdaughter loves it so much that she wanted to print. So did my daughter, or one of my daughters. And I mean, everybody wanted to print. So I had to give them away. I couldn't sell them. So yeah, that's the way it goes.
That's cool. Yeah, because I was looking at Canon's got that really neat 17 by 22 printer. That's like I get it's like phenomenal. Everybody's telling me it's the greatest, but it's of course the most expensive one too, unfortunately. But wide format printer.
Yeah, I mean, all those you start getting into that stuff. I mean, you got some that are max out at 13 by 19, and then like you said, that one's the next size up. And Epson has one now that's the next size up. And then from there, you get into the ones that are the size of a piano that are sitting in your room.
Yeah.
Hey, Tim, hello. And for those who just joined, I'll tell you right now, I don't often say this, but I will say it today. You want to go back and watch at least the first hour of this to catch up, because we covered quite a few subjects or quite a few things about black and white. It's been a very interesting conversation, a lot of input. I've learned some stuff, and I'm sure everybody else can learn from it as well in the conversation. So make sure you go back if you're just joining and check out that first hour. And let's see. Hero says, cloudy day is nature's softbox. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. As long as you don't have to get the sky. And if you do, heavy contrast in the sky will make that even more dramatic as well. On a
few clouds are always pretty too.
But,
yep.
You know, the crazy part is with Luminar and with Luminar Neo, you can do sky replacement. And I shot a wedding one time, and it was like ucky gray skies with no texture to them at all. I went through the whole wedding. They paid me extra, and I replaced all the skies with some cool warm color, looked like the sun was just setting and all that stuff. And I was like an absolute hero. It was hilarious.
And there you go, man. And I'm not opposed to that. A lot of people are. Cal says he shoots a Z7 II in monochrome. He finds that he can see his composition better in black and white. We talked about that earlier. That was one.
And the lighting's much easier to see.
Yeah, we talked about that a few minutes ago. Color sometimes misleads me. Yeah. And now that you said that, I want to bring this photo back up for just a minute. Let me get rid of your comment, because that's exactly what happened in this photo. This was taken in color. The only thing I did was change it to black and white. Haven't done any editing to it because this is back in 2012. But just changing it to black and white changed the whole complexion of this photo. I wish I could go find the color version of it as well. because the folks with the phones stand out, and that wasn't the case in the color photo, as Andy said, with the advertisements on the wall behind them and
That's
all
okay.
the signs. It was very distracting. But
Yeah.
so
Okay.
you're absolutely right. Let me drop that back out. Stuart says, "Hi, gentlemen. I like monochrome. It gives a sense of class. It does. It can definitely do that. How many portraits from the 40s? Man, I love seeing portraits from the 40s in black and white, especially of so many of the movie stars. That was black and white at its best, if you ask me. And as Ray said, a black and white movie doesn't look near as good on a color TV."
Roy, did you have clients where you had to do some of your shooting in black and white?
Yes, sometimes they require it, but it's so rare. I never needed a digital black and white camera.
Yeah.
One thing I had more often than that is a black and white image with a single part of it as color, like a single
Okay.
object.
The
That
selective
was much
color.
more common.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got that.
The Nikons do that very well.
There was a restaurant, and I won't remember the name of it. It was when I lived in Connecticut, and they had their artwork on the wall was basically, pictures of vegetables or whatever that they would use in there for their food, and it was black and white. Well, it was a photo that where most of it was black and white, but some of the rows of the vegetables were in color, and that looked really, really cool. I mean,
it
that
really
looked
emphasizes a part of the image.
yeah.
Man, Nick, I hate to hear that, man. Nick says, he said, "I got a story for you. I sent 3 prints by FedEx to a new homeowner. I just found out they delivered it to the wrong address, not on the shipping label." How do they do that, Nick? I know you've asked the same question. How do they do that? It says 145 Plant
Depends on how
Street.
drunk they are.
Or what drug-induced day they had the night before or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, Tim, thank you very much. For those that didn't see that yesterday over on Vahagan's channel, Vahography Talk, he had
I
Lee
haven't seen
Raymond.
most of it yet. I missed it.
Yep.
I had to go out.
The Snap chick, Lee, and her husband Raymond.
Surprise.
It was an interesting conversation. They're great people. They're down to earth and real people, and that's what comes out when you have people on a live stream. I loved it. I enjoyed it. I think Vahagan did a great job. He's got more of those coming up.
Great karma. That's the way I can describe it. They're,
Yep.
Well, when you can get a husband and wife, it's neat when you can get a husband and wife team that really share the same love of anything. It doesn't have to be photography, could be cooking or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I think in Chuck and my case and Chuck's case, our wives don't really care about our photography. They put up with us and they let us do it, but they're not involved with it. They're not, and to have a partner that's really into it like you are. I mean, that's pretty rare, really. I mean, usually, people don't have that same passion for the same thing.
Yeah.
I love seeing that.
I would say my wife tolerates me with but she encourages me as well. I mean, she knows that I enjoy it, so she definitely encourages me, and she has things that she likes to do. And I got to tell you, sometimes talking about music and whatever is not my favorite subject, and she knows that. But so we limit ourselves. There's only so much photography talk that I'm going to throw at her, and she's going to limit how much she, her music and fan base for the folks and everything she shares with me. But that's what we do, with loved ones. But but she does encourage me, and I appreciate that. I really do. And Hero says Luminar is great for sky replacement. I actually tried that a few weeks ago, since it's now in Photoshop, and their selective or their selection for selection tool, I think for the subject is fantastic, man. They've made some improvements, but they had to because everybody was on their heels. Luminar and so many others.
J-Rod,
I don't like doing it.
J-Rod, the shelves are sturdy. They're not going to fall down. Yeah, I just packed my camera for I'm going to be visiting. I was going to mention I won't be on Saturday with you, Chuck, so I'll be in Connecticut. I'm visiting my grandchildren and seeing two of my grandchildren for the first time. My wife saw one of them, but I'm seeing two that I have not seen before, so that's going to be interesting. So I just threw my 24 to 120 in the bag and my Z9 and packed some filters and a small travel tripod, and that's all I'm bringing with me.
I don't use filters much anymore these days, apart from protecting the lenses or polarizer.
Yeah, I mean it's just in a nice little case, and I just use the polarizer or the clear lens that doesn't add any color cast at all. Especially if I take pictures near a beach where it's windy and you got the sand whipping around, I want to have something on the.
So where are you going to be at, Jeffrey? If you don't mind, just a general vicinity.
In the Manchester, Vernon, Connecticut.
Okay.
area.
Okay.
Any gators there?
Well, I don't think they can deal with the northern temperatures too well. So I think it's safe. It's always been safe in Connecticut. A lot of poisonous snakes, though. There's plenty of poisonous snakes in Connecticut.
Hey, Jeffrey,
I give them at the moment.
I just saw this. This is a comment from my beautiful bride. She says, "You are so right, Jeff." And we're talking about sharing photography with a spouse. Oh,
At your own cost.
I'm going to have to send money to Greg. I don't look old enough for having grandkids. I'm 64 years old. I've got a handful of grandkids.
Well, man, you look very young.
Well, that's how it works when you shave your head and you don't have hair. I mean, it makes you look. It knocks at least 10 years off.
So you may see me with no hair next time. Hope I can get.
So she added this comment: "Music is my passion, and Chuck is all about photography." So, yep.
So is your wife like a music teacher?
No, she's just music is something that she just absolutely loves, and all types of music, and she follows different folks. She's a big BTS fan for one, which I thought was just for kids or whatever, and she's proven me to be mistaken.
What's a BTS?
Yeah.
It's now she's going to start. I'm sure she's typing already. What is BTS?
What is BTS?
It's a K-pop group over in Korea, and I got to admit, she has proven to me. I mean, these five, I think there are five. She'll correct me there for certain. They go live for a few minutes from wherever they're at. I mean, they obviously write, sing, and perform, which is, I guess, but they go live from their room or something like that for 20 or 30 minutes, and they get over 25 million viewers watching them while they're just eating supper or watching the TV. I mean, it's amazing. It's a phenomena that I've never seen.
Nauseating.
Yeah, well, yeah. You either
Chuck,
love them or hate them.
you think if I took my shirt off when I shoot and had an episode and I say I shoot raw, I'd get 20 million views? I don't think so.
No.
Hey, there's a market for everything. You never know.
You or me, either one, Jeffrey. I don't think we'd score a big hit there. And
we all take our shirts off and say we got our sexy out.
yeah. The drunk wedding photographer has joined us. David, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, good morning, everyone. How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
All right, I'm still alive. Can't complain.
I always say I woke up on the correct side of the grass. So I'm
Yeah,
doing
woke
good.
up on the right side. So
Right side of the grass. Yeah.
Yep. Robert Varner, I'm 68 and I have cats. Oh man, I've got a cat too, Robert. I guess you noticed that though on the streams when he's aggravating me. Yeah, good point, Kevin. Spouses are watching the live stream. Let's not talk about recent purchases. Absolutely.
I'm
Is
safe.
this where we lie and we say we sold $5,000 worth of pictures last night?
Yeah.
You know,
There we go.
We got to change.
All right, get ready. Everybody's going to get a lesson in BTS, the largest boy band in the world. They're global artists that passed the Beatles records and Michael Jackson. Yeah, I mean, it is phenomenal. The amount of fan base is over 1 billion. I mean, this, I'm not talking about people that have heard of them. I'm talking about the fan base that they call the army is over 1 billion. And she's going to chime in now with more information. I didn't mean to I didn't mean to pull that chain, but I got to let her talk about her.
Uh-oh. Somebody's webcam went dead.
Chuck's battery must have died.
Mine. I'm running
I
the
mean,
Z9,
Roy.
Okay.
Yeah.
and
I noticed there's a lot of latency in this today. Oh. All right, man. I have made it to the bottom of all the chat. Well, not for long, but
Yeah, it takes a while to catch up. There's so many great people on here, and
Yep.
You can get dizzy trying to pick out everything.
Yeah. So Hero Shots, he said, yeah, the Korean groups are large. Yes, they are. She's proven it to me. I was thinking at first, oh, well, so what? It's a boy band, how far did they go or how big? But this is huge. So, all right.
He's back.
Yay.
He's back. He's
battery
back.
change.
Yeah, I got a compliment from the bride. You got your facts right, hon. Thank you.
She trained you well.
Yes, she has.
So if you ever play in Connecticut, you got to buy tickets, right?
Oh, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Even if she wanted to fly out to California for their concert or one of.
You should have let her.
Well,
Yeah,
whoa. I don't stop her from anything. I got news for you.
We're talking ultimate and brownie points.
Oh, you could have went with her and stopped over in Hagen.
Hold it right there, Jeffrey. Hold it right there. I encourage her. I encourage her to take friends that are into the same thing and go and have a great time, because you wouldn't want Sourpuss there standing in the audience, anyway. Yeah. And she'll tell you that that's true.
So what you do is you schmooze your way in and get a nice long camera with a fast lens or long lens, and you volunteer your services to shoot the concert, and you get some cool samples.
Right. That isn't going to happen. I would go for that, but that's not going to happen. There's no way that's going to happen. So, yeah. All right.
So speaking of Korea, so fun fact, LA actually has the best Korean food in the world. Many Koreans actually travel to LA to Koreatown to try our Korean food.
Oh, don't say that, because now my wife's going to want to go to LA.
And if you're here at the right time, sometimes you bump into cake pop bands having dinner.
Oh, no, you just did that. You're just making that up, honey.
No, really.
No.
Chuck, what you do is you compromise. You go, you do that stuff for a couple of days, and then you say, I'm going to visit Hagen for a couple of days and do a photo shoot.
100%.
Yep. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I'm not
Robert's
sure
out there
if
too.
this is true, but rumor is that KBBQ was actually invented here in LA, not in Korea.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Huh. Well, you know what? I've said that a lot of times. If there's one thing America has done right, is they've taken food from all over the world and made it even better. It's There's just something about that.
Yeah, it was just like the Cuban sandwich. You know, it was made in Florida, not in
Yep.
Cuba. I say the same thing about Mexican food, but I usually get pushback on that. But I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. To each their own. Because I do think Mexican food in LA is better
awesome
than in Mexico because it has influences from all the regions.
Okay,
so-
wait a minute. Restate that. You think
Mexican food here in LA specifically is better than Mexican food in Mexico.
Otherwise, you've got to go to LA then.
Absolutely. Tex-Mex is far better. I agree because I have eaten quite a few times in Mexico. And while it's okay, it's just not like putting that Tex-Mex spin on it. I agree.
Yeah, there's always something missing, I feel.
Glad
And
you
I get a lot of pushback on that, but I'm like, whatever.
Glad you didn't say Taco Bell.
No.
Let's go to LA. Here you go. You had to start that, didn't you, David?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Go to LA and go to Taco Bell.
No, and I learned this when I worked at in the fashion industry. The owners were Korean, so that's how I got to I got involved with the culture and the nightlife in Koreatown. I was like, oh, okay. And it's funny because I actually used to live a few blocks away from it, and I never bothered to check it out until I started working in the industry. So it's pretty interesting.
Yep. Stepson was out there doing some video, filming a couple of videos with people out there that are, like indie filmmakers. And anyway, he fell in love with the Mexican food out there in LA.
Yeah,
Roy,
and as I
you
said,
curious
and I think
about
it
what
has-
you said, Roy, is that true? Deep fried
Yeah.
spiders? I'm
Yeah,
turning. I'm
deep-fried
starting to feel
spiders.
ill. Oh,
They're not
Gee.
very appetizing.
All right. So we have gone completely off track.
Keeping up the rails. Danger.
I'm surprised we have anybody viewing right now, but maybe they're interested in Korean food in LA. I don't know, but
Girl at the Korean restaurant or the Mexican restaurant.
yeah. I'll skip the spiders, boy. Woo.
Hey.
all right, baby. We're going to drop Korea for a minute.
Sorry.
But I'm glad you're enjoying it. I know you guys are just bored to death driving, so I'm glad you're enjoying the stream. Man, didn't see that coming. All right.
Yeah, see, that's why I love this podcast because it could just go anywhere.
And everywhere.
It could go into some very dark places at
Yes.
night.
This is interesting. Sebastian saying TV media in Poland overuse black and white footage for coverage when someone passes away. Now I'm hesitant to use it for portraits. I'm afraid of creating a false impression. Wow, man, that's interesting. Wow.
So is that
Oh,
like
man.
the video or the portraits of people who passed away? Or
I don't know.
that's interesting.
Yeah, video
Probably
footage of people that passed. Yeah,
Uh,
that's,
I'll tell you what, Sebastian has done a great job of showing us what Poland looks like. I see his photos, from time to time. The landscapes there are fantastic, which I didn't know about. And thanks, Sebastian, for continuing to post that. I really enjoy your photos. Oh, my photographers are so fun and interesting because they like BTS or they or they know about Korean restaurants.
Or Mexican food.
just because we're just a bunch of wild and crazy guys.
Yeah, we are. There's no doubt about that. So Sebastian says they make the entire reportage in black and white. Wow.
Oh wow.
That's interesting. And that's always the case, Sebastian? It's always in black and white?
Maybe it's their way of making it look more grim.
It'll make it look more grim, all right.
Get
Yeah.
more financial backing from the United States.
It's strange, though. I mean,
Yeah.
You're welcome, Sebastian, because I love your photos, man. You're showing me a part of Poland I'd never seen. Because
I'm gonna
I've
do
never, yeah. What if they made black and white M&Ms? Wouldn't matter.
I think they did.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Oh,
and
for
they-
weddings. Like they do it for weddings, like the tux and dress.
yeah.
And they put your initials on it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
There you go, baby.
I had problems with M&Ms.
Mhm.
Like certain colors they didn't want. I guess whatever it did, but you had to take all that certain color out of M&Ms, or they like freak out.
Yeah, man. M&Ms is M&Ms. I don't care if they're all white, all black, all yellow, all green. I don't care.
Yeah.
So,
Hero Shots saying photographers know BTS is behind the scenes.
that's what I thought it stood for. But no, it's actually an acronym for Korean words or whatever. I don't know. And now we're going to get that. Now we're going to be schooled on that next. Now I want to go to Koreatown and shoot in black and white and get some barbecue there. Hey, I ran across a fun video last night, just getting ready to shut the computer down. Then I got stuck because I had to watch it. It's Korean girls eating American barbecue in over in South Korea. It was really fun to watch. They're what they thought of American barbecue from Texas, Alabama, North Carolina, and I can't remember where else. They had several types there to let them try the sauces and that. But anyway, evidently there's only one real good barbecue place in South Korea. And the owner of the restaurant with his chefs traveled to America to study to take it back to South Korea. And some Americans have gone over there and tried it and said it's as good as back home. So, and the South Koreans have received it extremely well. So, yeah, it's just interesting. All right. I don't know why I brought all that up because it has nothing to do with black and white photography or the Z8.
So, just wanted to throw in my 2 cents about black and white photography for weddings. If we could steer back the conversation to it. Usually I don't use black and white, but whenever I take a shot that has horrible skin tone or some color cast, that's when I convert it into black and white. That's been my saving grace sometimes.
See, yeah, Chuck, we're not the only ones. That old saying, if it looks crummy in color, convert it to black and white and it'll look great.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, because usually it's like there's like an emotion there or something interesting, but it's like the color is just bad.
Oftentimes, it's a little overexposed, or maybe you can't pull back the highlights enough to make it work or whatever in color. Bam, automatic, black and white. Wow, look, I saved a photo and it looks great. So yeah, absolutely. I've done that, several times.
And the client is none the wiser.
No. And they applaud you like, oh, that is so, I love this in black and white. They have no idea that, it was a missed opportunity in color, but it made a great black and white photo.
100%.
I did a wedding for my wife's best friend's daughter. And I went and at the time, I don't have it now, but I had one of those, I'm trying to think of the name of it, like a digital pen, and I went in and I made the image, bride and groom, bride holding the bouquet of flowers, and I made it black and white. And then I went and I colorized. It took me forever, but I colorized the flowers in the bouquet. So only the flowers were in color, and she went nuts. She loved it.
Oh man!
Also, for black and white, I've been working on this personal project for, I want to say 15 years, more plus, and it's night architecture. And I started with my D200, and then when I went to college, we had an assignment to do a personal project, and I used that as my personal project to take pictures of LA at night, and I use film for that. In fact, I actually posted the link on the private chat. I know it's not a show and tell, but I really want to encourage everybody who's listening to like really pick up a personal project, especially if you can do it like on black and white, because it really encourages you to see the world in a different way. Like it's sort of rekindles that love you had for photography. Because sometimes I get it. Like sometimes you get all burned out and you're like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. And then there's so much media, that you overconsume. So I think having a personal project, like even if nobody sees it, it's something that I really encourage everybody to do.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
that was my project.
I think a lot of people do fall into it that way. They just try it. And then all of a sudden they found out, man, here's a whole other medium that I haven't been playing with. And it makes for some fantastic photos. And no, Moz, man, we do not have $19,000. You notice I said we don't have $19,000 for a BTS photo. My bride would probably, and depending on the photo, would probably be compelled to purchase a photo like that. I did tell Joe's friend over in Korea, when he goes back to Korea, if he can get a paparazzi photo of any one of those guys in the band, my wife would buy it. So he has his, she has her wish list, and he has a task now to perform when he goes back to Korea. Let's see. All right. So, yeah, we talked about that earlier too, Nick. Black and white with nudes are amazing. Yep. Jeffrey brought that up. Yep. Again,
Especially if you can get those harsh highlights in there.
Yep.
To create like really strong contrast.
Yeah, you get the extremes between the dark shadows and bright highlights, and you can it accentuates the body, and I mean that's why so many nude artistic nude photos are in black and white predominantly.
The older lenses do a better job too. They got more contrast.
Yeah.
The older glass.
Zach is at work, but Zach Z-Wade Photo does all the bodyscaping, and of course he's looking at everything in black and white as well. It just, I mean, because there really is very limited color in the way that he's lighting them and everything else. So it just works so well in black and white. All right, guys, I got a little, I have to go to the little boys' room, of course. And I got to make a pot of coffee because my coffee cup is empty and the pot is empty, and that's not a good thing.
Uh-oh. You're running out of gas then.
Yeah.
Well, I got to skate too because I got 2 sittings coming up. I'm doing headshots for some politicians. So
Okay,
yeah.
good.
Nice.
Woohoo!
Great. Yeah, buddy. Outstanding.
Well, I hope you like them and you let them keep their heads.
Yeah, there's a couple of them there like I don't think it made a difference without the head. But anyway, but yeah, guys, you guys are awesome. When's Robert's one? Isn't it like Thursday or something? What? No. Yeah, Thursday, isn't it usually Thursday evening?
Yeah, his is Thursday evening. Yep.
Yeah.
Robert Silver. Yep.
Robert
His is
Silver.
on stream. Yep.
He's pretty cool. I like him. Well, I like all you guys, but he's pretty cool too.
Yeah, I like Robert. Robert's a great guy.
But anyway, so I bid you all a fair adieu.
All right, Cooley. Thanks for joining us, even
All
if
right,
it was
no
just for a
problem.
few minutes.
Have fun, guys.
All right.
Take care.
All right, I'm going to drop the link in the chat again, and this will give everybody time to jump over. If they would like to get on the stream, you're more than welcome. I'm going to run to the little boys' room and put on a pot of coffee real quick. So, all right, that said, Jeffrey, don't let them burn the place down, man.
No, I'll try not to.
All right, here's the link.
You can't sell the place if it's in ashes.
Yeah. Yeah. If it's an accident, I can collect the insurance, though.
Yeah.
I didn't say that, insurance company.
I
really
didn't
say
hear
that.
nothing. I heard nothing. I heard nothing.
Schultz.
I'll be like Schultz. I hear nothing. I see nothing.
I like that show.
All right, guys, I will be right back.
Mm.
Let's chat about BTS versus Blackpink. Now, you just had to start it, didn't you, Moz, man? Because all right, I'll be right back.
Yeah,
There are a
another one I haven't
handful of
heard of.
Blackpink songs that I like. I don't think I've ever heard BTS. I know my mom's into them, but there's a couple of Blackpink songs that I like and that I purchased. Hey Roy, quick question. I don't remember which live stream we were talking about the Nikon F and this case that was specifically made for the Nikon F, where you can attach 3 lenses on it. Do you have that, or have you
I
seen it?
do.
Oh, what?
Give him a minute. It's in drawer number 5. Wait a minute. You'll find it.
What? Yeah, because man, that's something that I would love to own. It's just the way it looks. I don't think it's very practical these days, but just to look at it, it's pretty cool. Because the way it opens, hopefully it's the same one. It's like a clamshell, and the whole thing opens like a.
Well,
We'll see it
remember
right now.
all the old. My friend collects old movie cameras, and a lot of his movie cameras that he buys, have 3 or more turrets on them, rotatable turrets with different lenses.
Wow.
And that's how it was. I mean, the Kodak Brownies were typically just a single lens, but some of the German-made, 8mm film cameras had multiple turrets.
Wow.
Actually, he called me, told me today he just bought my friend Bob from Bob Our Photo.
Yeah. Look at that.
He bought a 16mm. Oh, wow. Look at that.
Yeah, see, you can mount your lenses on that. That's so cool.
F mount only.
Yeah.
No Z yet. It's too old for Z.
How much are those?
I have no idea. I must have had it for 10, 20 years.
Wow.
I forgot what it's called. There's a number on it somewhere, perhaps. Maybe not. It's got a place for the camera and a place for 3 lenses.
Yeah, that's pretty cool that you
See if
still
I've got a
have that.
record of it. I've seen it on the eBay from time to time.
Yeah, if you can find the link, send it to me. I'll check it out.
I have to have an Excel spreadsheet for all this stuff, or I lose track.
Have you seen a lot of? I'm just wondering. I'm trying to think back many years ago. Black and white common for. I would think it might be pretty common for like photographing dunes in a desert,
Yeah, I've seen a lot of those pictures.
right?
Yeah.
That would probably be really cool. Everybody does it in color because of the color of the rocks, but you get some of those shots in Utah.
Especially if you can do it at night.
Yeah, you do.
I
You
think,
get
yeah.
some of those shots in black and white when you're crawling through the canyons and stuff, and that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. I think just in general,
Yeah.
taking pictures at night in black and white is pretty interesting because not a lot of people do it. In fact, that project I was talking about, it was featured in the Vincent Price Museum twice for that reason, because it wasn't something that they usually see. I mean, it took a while for it to get accepted, but it's like, it's really interesting to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, people forget Vincent Price was he was a huge art collector. I mean, he had a huge art collection. He was, and I'm not sure if I don't know if he did photography, but he might have been someone that dabbled with the paintbrush a little bit too, but he was definitely a big time collector. I remember because I was a fan of his when I was younger, and all the B horror movie flicks that he did in black and white and whatnot.
Yeah. And his voice. Man,
Oh, he had a
that's what I
great
love about
voice.
Vincent Price. Yeah. The
Yeah.
voice, man.
Yeah.
The case is called an FB5.
FB5?
FB5, yeah. This one is
there it
anyway.
is. Okay.
I've got a brochure on it.
Yes. Yeah, so they're about $100. Well, not bad.
Yeah. It's just interesting case. It's all leather. Not fake leather.
Yeah.
I like old things like me. If something's old, I get attracted to it.
Yeah, it's funny.
See, Jeff,
I like-
there's I'm telling you, there's a market for it if you do those shirtless photos.
Hey, I researched plate cameras for a while, and there's a guy that makes a decent living, you know, doing the chemicals and putting the chemicals on the glass, and you know, and doing it all real old school, and he makes a reasonably good living shooting with plate glass cameras and doing his
Yeah,
own.
I think I've
Lot of
seen
work, though.
I've seen him. I don't know if we're talking about the same guy, but yeah, it's a pretty famous guy here. It's been featured everywhere doing that.
You get a niche like that, and it catches on. Boy, you can.
Well, it's sort of like that aura photography. Have you seen that where they capture your aura on film? And then there's a huge, well, it's here in LA, and it's a huge debate because some people are like, well, she's just using expired film, and I'm like, okay, well,
Mine
but
would
she's
just
getting
be a
paid
dark-
for it,
My aura would just be a dark shadow.
right? Yeah, so there's that, and that's, in fact, the studio was in Chinatown. I'm not sure if it's still there, but because every time I would go, it was closed. And I think it's like $50 for that portrait. So, and people do it. People love that stuff. But again, like there was this huge debate on whether she used like expired Polaroid or expired film, and I was like, well, who cares? And it's like she's getting paid for it.
Everybody goes quiet when I come back.
Yep.
Yeah, we're in trouble.
I'm trying to look at the things commented on in the chat here to see if we move us in a certain direction here. And
All right, so let's open it up because everybody, and I want to dispel some of the comments and things that are going on the internet and on the on YouTube with a lot of the reviews that have been done. So let's open it up for Z8 chat for a bit. And I will put a marker in here. Roy said no. But there are some things that are going on in the chat. I'm seeing it in my comments as well. By the way, I am going to get to all the comments on the last live stream and answer those as well. So what do you get? How do you guys feel about some of the reviews of the Z8 so far from some of the YouTubers?
Don't watch them.
That's the best thing to do.
yeah,
I think.
Roy's at least being honest. He doesn't have an interest in the camera, so he's not wasting. He's saving himself precious hours by not watching all that stuff.
Well, I kind of can't say that anymore.
Uh-oh. You going to make an announcement? Are you buying
I
one?
weakened.
You
I
weekend?
weakened.
Yes,
Ah.
yes, Mr. Roy has caved.
Oh, I didn't see that one coming.
I was tossing up that or another Z9 because the prices come closer.
Yeah.
Z9's $1,500 cheaper here now.
Yaman said there's a special promotion on the Z8 right now, and I guess it's in UAE. He was waiting for the price because it didn't come out at the same time, the rest of them did in the announcement. I don't know why, but whatever. He said there's a special promotion. If you buy it now in the initial wave, you get it at, I can't remember the price, but significantly cheaper because it's going to go up after the initial wave of, I guess, deliveries or purchases. So he's kind of stuck in a dilemma now. He wants the camera.
Watch those special sales.
Yeah.
They're a bit of a scam.
Well, I think Gray's just had on their last live stream talking about how the prices were going to go up in Japan anyway, and if it starts in Japan, it may spread. So there's some reason why the prices are going up right now just in Japan on the Nikon stuff. So hopefully it stays there and doesn't go everywhere else. But not that I'm wishing that they pay more, but
right.
I don't want to imply that that's okay, but
My
It's an
microphone's
interesting camera.
yeah, I'm just struggling. I'm just struggling with it. I've watched so many videos. I mean, the first day when they announced it, I watched so much stuff. My head was pounding when I went to bed. I just had so much stuff in my head going around. I had a headache.
Me too, Jeffrey, because that and being on other streams and everything else, it was just overwhelming. Last week was a killer for me. It really was. But in particular, I know that Matt Granger has put out a couple of videos and a lot of people are upset. Some people aren't. They welcome the, real world. Here it is. And this is what you're going to get and things like that. However, I will agree that I don't think that he did enough to calm the masses, because the buffer is going to be different. Obviously, again, anybody that is ordering a Z8 should not be surprised that a SD card will slow the camera down. I mean, if you're really surprised, then I don't know, you haven't been shooting very long. You don't understand the whole dynamics of cards and writing to cards and things like that. However, with the CF Express B card only, it's for whatever reason, his experience was it didn't match exactly what the Z9 will do. Okay, that can be understandable. I guess
at 20 frames a second, 15 was okay.
So my my response to that is, one, how many people are going to hold the trigger down and are shooting that way? So if you're doing that all the time, then this could be a disappointment, I guess. Okay, I'll give you that. But I don't think most people are holding the shutter button down for 6 or 8 seconds.
No.
Maybe there are cases where
I don't want that many files.
Yeah, exactly. But so I don't think that that's a limiting factor in the Z8 at all. When you compare it to the Z9, and if we want to pick out differences, then there is a difference, but it's not significant in my opinion. So that doesn't bother me at all. But I wish he had explained that, because it seems there are people that can't think beyond what they're hearing. They hear it and then, okay, that's gospel. And man, I'll never be able to shoot for 6 or 8, 10 seconds straight. But they don't stop and think, have I ever done that? Well, no. So it's really not a big issue. So it becomes more of a bragging point, I think, for some people. They just want to brag about, my dog's bigger than your dog.
I'm excited about the 2 USB ports.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been begging for that for years.
And we haven't talked about that a lot. I mean, I have a little bit on the power USB-C port, because, again, it gives you the opportunity to overcome that battery. If the battery is an issue for you, I mean, a true issue for you, because you can't stop in the middle of a photo shoot somewhere or where there's a pause and swap batteries, then okay, I guess it is an issue. If you just don't want to carry an extra battery for a day shooting, and I can understand it might be an issue. Therefore, there is a battery grip, and we'll go into that in a minute, because so many people are talking about it's so ugly, it's this, it's that. Personally, I don't like a battery grip on a camera. I know that I think Roy does, because Roy wants to shoot
mirrorless, because I don't like running out of battery power.
Right.
I take them all off the DSLRs though, because I don't need it anymore, because it sort of balances out.
Yeah. So, I mean, some of these reviews, and again, back to Matt Granger, people they get upset when they see some of this stuff. Well, it's truly not a baby Z9. Well, okay, if you feel that way, it's not, because if nothing else, it's not a vertical grip body unless you put a battery grip on it. So you're right. It's not a baby Z9.
Out of the gate, it's not.
Yeah. But then again, it is, because it takes all the internals out of the Z9 and puts it into a smaller body, which I think is fantastic. And that's the reason I'm looking forward to this camera. One, it shares so much of what the Z9 does. If I'm shooting with both cameras, one on each side, I'm not fumbling around or having to switch or figure out where the button layout is, because it's essentially the same. And I know somebody's going to counter that with, well, no, it's not. They took the mode dial, okay. All right. You got me there. But for the most part, everything that I'm doing when I'm out shooting is available to me on both bodies in the same location. So I'm happy with that. I'm happy that it does all the video codecs. Not that I'm going to use 8K on a constant basis, but I do shoot some video. I help my stepson out, and he does all the editing. I'm just here to shoot it and and to make sure he gets what he needs. But he does use 4K especially in his videos. So anyway, I'm just wondering how you guys feel about it, because I haven't changed my opinion on the Z8 based on what I've seen so far. Now, the opposition, and I say the trolls from other brands and within Nikon, mind you, have done their best to try to point out all the discrepancies within the Z8. Why, I don't know, because they're so far and few between that, and it doesn't really affect what I'm doing with the camera. But is anything that's been brought up so far affecting your opinion of the Z8 if you were looking to purchase the Z8? I guess that's where the question goes.
Boy,
I'd like to have a GPS built in, but that's a minor thing.
Yeah.
Apart from that, it's a really good camera.
yeah. I mean, I think, you know, it gets going to come down to what you shoot. Like like right now, like current day, yes, I'm shooting a lot of birds in flight and stuff like that, and I'm using long lenses. So for me, I'm going to like the balance of my Z9 with a long lens better than I would the D8 with a long lens. But I jump around, you know, I mean, 3 years from now, I may be doing mostly landscapes. I don't know, you know, I'm like somebody that I do a little bit of everything, but right now predominantly nature and birds. But, you know, 5 years from now, I might be doing predominantly street photography or nature or landscape photography. That's just how I am. You know, I'll change gears and then my needs will change as a result, you know. So, I mean, I think the Z8, if I don't regret having gotten a Z9, and I certainly wouldn't sell my Z9 to then get a Z8.
Right.
But
Probably not.
I think a Z8 is a very good complementary camera and a backup camera, second purpose camera to a Z9, and saves you some dough. And I think for a D850 user, of which I was one, if the Z9 didn't exist and the Z8 came out, I would jump at it, being a D850 owner.
Yeah.
So,
I'd go for 2 if there was no Z9.
Yeah, I agree with you, Roy. Absolutely. Because I had 2 D850s. And I've said this before, as much as I love the D850, because I grew up in the D800 series, you know, D800, D810, and D810 was a fantastic camera. D800 was a fantastic camera. Let me get that straight. Yeah, it got overshadowed by the D810 and then later the D850. But that whole series was good cameras. But the D850 seemed to strike a mark with most people. It was a fantastic camera. However, if you were a sports action shooter, it, you know, as good as it was, it never held a candle to the flagship, the D5, or even the D4, and then later the D6. And people have tried to convince me, well, it's just no.
Well, you know what the problem was with that, Chuck, is Nikon advertised it that way. Nikon advertised it and said, "Oh, the D500 and the D850 have the same autofocus system that's in the D5," and that wasn't correct.
No, it wasn't. You're absolutely right.
But they advertised it that way.
I know, and you're right. They made a mistake, but that's just marketing, trying to get people to buy. You know, they have to understand that everybody's going to go test their theory. Yeah, and especially when it's Nikon, they're going to test that theory to prove them wrong. So when you make a statement, you better be ready to back it up with the performance. There you go.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
I've still got it. Still love it. Still very useful. That functions very well, better than the Z9.
Yeah. So I was shooting motocross at the time, and I carried the D850 with the D5, and as the D850 was okay. There was nothing wrong with it, but it wasn't even close to matching the speed and autofocus and everything of the D5, in my opinion. Man, I carried
the D850 is probably more versatile than the D5.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if you wanted higher megapixel or higher resolution, obviously the D850 was the camera, but it didn't give me the ability to capture everything that I wanted, and that's where the D5 stepped in. But I did carry the D850, and I used it shooting motocross, but it wasn't typically the races or anything else. It was all the behind the scenes stuff that I loved carrying the D850 for, in the pits and the crowd and all those type photos that the D850 just excelled at. Nothing wrong with the D5, but at 45 megapixels, I mean, it was just better.
It earned its reputation as an all-rounder camera.
Yeah.
You know?
So now what Nikon has done is, and there's no innovation in Nikon. I've heard that, and I want to talk about that and see how you guys feel. No innovation in Nikon because the Z8 is so close to the Z9 in performance and characteristics and everything else. I disagree at all completely. Now I can carry both cameras with the form factor of the D850, which I will use as well. I have the high resolution and I have the speed. I mean, on both cameras. So this gives me the flexibility to have two focal lengths on, different focal lengths, one on each camera, and be able to capture everything I want without having to worry about which camera I pick up and hold. It's just a matter of focal length, depending on the lens that I have on the camera.
Yeah, 50 is a lovely size camera too.
Yeah. And Rakesh had the opportunity to pick it up and play with it, and he says he liked it too. Now to the grip.
Yeah.
The grip looks third party.
It's not
Like an
not
afterthought.
even it's not the same width as the camera body.
It looks like the Z6 grip.
It's
It
crazy.
doesn't match at all. I don't like the way it joins. I don't like the batteries it uses.
Yeah, they should have taken
18 in it.
They should have taken inspiration from the F6 where it has that little bump where it cradles the camera. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like one unibody. They should have done that, but what do I know?
Well, there are a couple of things about the grip. One, people aren't happy that it's it seems a prosumer style grip that attaches through the existing battery port, which a lot of people haven't thought of either. You're going to have to take the battery door off of the Z8 to actually use the grip. So if you're not comfortable doing that, it's going to be an issue. And you take the chance on breaking the little nibs off of the door or whatever, you have to be careful, blah, blah, blah. But if you really want a grip, then it's available. And Rakesh is saying the grip, though, with it, it's bigger than the Z9. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Still want to see a grip with an 18D battery, EL 18.
Yeah, me too.
And I
Maybe
know
a third party will make one.
there is a
But again, I
possibility.
don't want it joining the same way as the Z6. I don't want that sort of grip.
Yeah. So it's one of those things. If you must have the extra battery power and well, to some extent, a vertical handhold, which even with the Z9 and I did it with the Z5, I'm one of these guys. I never used the vertical grip. It's just what I got used to, and that's just the way it is. So that doesn't bother me. I don't need a grip for that. And even in the power, the life of the batteries, having the grip gives you that much more battery life. And to be honest, if you're not shooting video, I don't see you going through two EL15s Cs in a day of shooting, unless you are shooting 3,000 or 4,000 photos. Yes, I could see it then. But you do have the ability to hot swap the batteries. So
one of them.
Yeah, at least they did that. And you can watch the battery life go. And if you know that I think it's the A battery, which is the one that you can hot swap, and it's listed in the menu that way, you can replace the battery when it's getting low before you even get to the second battery. So when you have a lull in action, all you got to do is hot swap that battery out and you're good to go for who knows how long. That's the part we don't know because nobody's tested the battery life with the grip just to see what it gets. So yeah, why did they make it the way they did? I don't know. I have to believe Nikon, and you may laugh, but I have to believe there's something that caused that structural change of the battery grip, that they had to do it that way for a reason, because I can't see Nikon slapping that on the bottom of the camera and going, oh yeah, that's
It's
beautiful.
ridiculous.
Yeah. So, will we ever know what the issue was and the reason for that? I don't know. But like you said, Roy, maybe there'll be a third-party manufacturer that's going to produce a battery. I'm sure there will. And will it be able to accept the EN EL18? That's a good question, because the EN EL18 doesn't extend far enough to hit the connection in the battery grip. So there'll have to be a battery grip. My guess is if there's a third-party grip, it won't be able to accept anything but the EN EL18, because they'll have to manufacture the grip to.
That's okay by me.
Yeah. Yeah. And the EN EL18 batteries will last forever. I have yet to ever change a battery, even in motocross, when shooting motocross. I have yet to change a battery in a full day of shooting. And I'm talking, anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 images. Never even came close to running that battery. So yeah.
The only thing that really runs it down is if you're shooting a mix with video. The video will suck it down.
Well, mine's been running video. I'm on the second battery at the moment, so I've got the back screen on. Should have turned the back screen off. It probably would have lasted longer.
Yeah. Well, so are you running? Are you recording or just have it on monitor?
I'm just using it as a webcam.
Yeah, go through. Okay. Yeah.
It ran the first battery for a couple of hours, and then I just changed batteries.
Well, and for
I could
the
use a
video
dummy battery, but I'm lazy.
Well, the video aficionados out there that want this camera to shoot video, yes, obviously in video, especially the higher frame rates and codecs, yes, it's going to eat batteries. But again, you have the ability to deliver power through the USB-C port, or if you're shooting on a rig, to have a dummy battery with a with a V mount and a D tap, so that you're and I'll guarantee you, whatever video you're doing, you're not going to run out of power with a V mount. Yes, it's got weight, but again, we're back to, are you shooting 2 hours of video handheld straight, nonstop? You're probably on a tripod, so there's no reason why you couldn't use a V mount battery, or again, a power bank that will supply enough power to continue to recharge the battery or power the camera. And so, yeah, all these are additional costs, I understand, but that's the sacrifice we make to do what we want to do. And so back to the innovation. There's no other camera on the market right now. Nikon knew that, and they knew that so many people wanted the Z8 early on. When the Z9 was announced, they wanted it, but they didn't want that full grip body. Vertical grip body. How many times have I heard that? Too big, too heavy. Give it to me in a smaller body. And Nikon's done that. But the innovation was done in the Z9, and it carries over into the Z8. So Nikon is still an innovative company. I'm not trying to make excuses for them, because you guys know how I'll pick on Nikon, especially when it comes to marketing and communicating. But again, the innovation is in this body. And guess what? There's already a firmware update coming for this camera, according to Mark Cruz, that will change the base ISO in video from 800 to 200. That's a big deal. And then one other firmware update that he wouldn't elaborate on, didn't talk about, didn't hint to, but another addition to that firmware update is something that he wasn't ready to actually speak about. So, I think Nikon's going to continue with the firmware updates, at least for these two cameras, the Z8 and the Z9. Will the Z9 get everything that's additional in the Z8? I believe it will. Why wouldn't it? That wouldn't make any sense. Yeah, and you're right, Luis. And again, that's what I'm trying to say here is, a lot of these things come across as, oh, that's it. The camera is no good because, of this or that. Nikon has been smart to build the workarounds into this camera. So you always have the flexibility to be able to get the battery power that you want, or battery life that you want. And on the buffer, again. And if you find that you're going to shoot a 15-second, 20 frames per second spree, then you know what? You got to go to the Z9. But how many people are actually going to do that? Very few and far between. So this is the perfect camera for those that didn't want the larger body. It really is, in my opinion. And oh, by the way, let me add this before we get into, everybody says, well, it's not the camera. I wanted a higher megapixel camera. Well, I understand that. And I think that's coming in the Z7 III. And some people are still saying that the Z7 will go away. Not at all. I don't, again, I'll eat a bag of M&Ms on a live stream. It might be a smaller bag than this
You
one.
do that anyway.
Yeah, well, it might be a smaller bag than this one, but
That's not a challenge.
but the Z7 III is going to be the high megapixel camera. And why is it being held up so long? My guess is, I don't want to say the body's going to change because then we get into a big battle over that, but I think it's because of sensor. I think there's new sensor technology out there, and Nikon's waiting because they're going to be innovative and they're going to go big. It's just my thoughts on that. So you may get the camera of your dreams, minus a few bells and whistles, of course, but no camera. There is no Build-A-Bear camera factory, So, but I think you're going to get what you want.
Megapixels, because
I
I don't
just
want
want
to
to comment on Craig C's statement, and not to comment to be a jerk, but if you want to believe Mac Ranger's results, because I questioned him on something when I watched his video, and that statement Z8 buffer is the same as the Z9 if you're only writing to the CFEB card. That's what I thought, and he told me that's not correct. He told me that if you're shooting 20 frames per second, that it does slow down on the Z8, where it won't slow down on the Z9.
So it begs the question: when does it slow down? Because if it's
said,
beyond,
on the Z9 at 20 frames per second on the Z9, you can run high efficiency star, and lossless, and it never slows down. And he said at Z8 you can be in high efficiency mode on the Z8, and it does slow down.
But see,
it doesn't take a long time to slow down.
That's the part we're missing. That's the missing information that gets everybody in a tizzy.
But he demonstrates it. The thing is, what he did was he didn't put that information in a table at the end of the video. Like parts of it, he had a table at the end of the video. Well, that particular thing, he talked about it and he demonstrated it towards the beginning of the video. So, basically, okay, so what? But it's not going to affect 95% of the people that are going to buy that camera.
But that's my point, Jeffrey, is if you're going to do that, be a responsible reviewer and say, here's what it will do, though.
Yeah.
And if this limits what you're doing, then yes, it could be a problem. Yeah. But tell me, at 6 seconds, it begins to buffer. Okay. I'm never going to shoot for 6 seconds in high frames per second. I mean, that's me. But maybe if somebody thinks that they will or whatever, then that's a consideration. And that's my point. And I wish that they would do that. How many of you are going to shoot more than 5 seconds or whatever? Then this could be an issue. Instead of just saying, here's the raw data without all the data and how long and whatever, that's what bothers me. And that seems to be what's bothered a lot of people because they don't.
I don't shoot. I do birds. I don't shoot. I mean, I know this was where I different than Steve Perry, and I respect the heck out of Steve Perry. I mean, he does shoot 20 frames per second, or on the Sony 30 frames per second quite often. Whereas I do it on a as needed basis. If I'm trying to capture the bird flying off the tree or landing in the tree or something like that, and it's a majestic bird or an eagle or something, yeah, I might go with that 20 frames per second. But typically I'm shooting, I'm usually shooting 15 and I'm doing short bursts.
Yeah. And Craig, you make a good point, because it was only after the fact in the comments when he made that statement. So Jeffrey, I hope you caught that as well, because he talked about pre-production versus production model too. It seemed that maybe that had something to do with it. And the card that you use, yes, that has something to do with it. Some people think they have the fastest card because of whatever. For me, the Delkin Black seems to be the fastest card out there.
And most reliable.
Yeah. So, but it's going to be up to everybody to practice, to play with the camera and whatever. And just like in high codec, 8K or whatever, 8K raw, it's going to overheat or whatever. And you know what? I said I'm when I get my camera, I'll burn it down just to prove this point, or run it to shut off. That it's card heat more so than camera in-body heat. And everybody has talked about the cards get extremely hot. But you know what? We were talking about that with the Z9. If you remember, when it comes to video, the cards get extremely hot.
It's a lot of work.
So, yeah, that's a card manufacturer issue that's going to have to be taken care of. Right. Nikon, Canon, and Sony aren't going to worry about that. They're just going to complain to the manufacturers, you need to up your game, but they're not going to compensate for it somehow in body for cards. But I made the statement that I would burn it down at 8K. I don't have a card big enough to do that. I can't do that. I mean, the files are incredibly large. And I think you're talking about a 2 to 4 terabyte card to be able to run that long in those frame rates. So
yeah, and I wouldn't buy one of those just for the sake of doing a test unless I was getting paid for it.
Right, exactly. So yeah. But again, I'm not trying to make excuses, but we build up in our minds what we expect, and then because we don't get what we expect, we think, well, then it's no good. I mean, look at how it would apply to what you're shooting and make a decision. If the Z8 isn't for you, by all means, don't buy it. You know, if Nikon hasn't met your needs and whatever, don't buy Nikon. Go buy the camera that meets your needs, whatever it may be. And I'm all for that as well, to just be happy with your purchase. I know I'm happy where I'm at in Nikon as far as the equipment goes. I still got some room to play with on the marketing side, whatever. But they do seem to be doing a little bit better.
Electronics get hot.
Yeah, that's what the cards get hot because you're basically talking about transistors that are being, millions or billions of transistors that are being turned on and turned off. So you got current draw. So the electronics get hot. So all electronics get hot.
Hey, Cooley, I don't know what you're shooting.
A mechanical part, electronics get hot all the time.
Hey, Cooley, I don't know what you're shooting as far as, media, cards or whatever. But if you're shooting with CF Express B cards, put it in a card reader and download a bunch of files, and you'll see what I mean. Yeah. And that has nothing to do with the camera, but that'll show you how hot that card gets. And it gets hot in the reader even.
They work very hard.
Yeah, my reader my card gets, not hot, but it gets pretty warm in the reader.
And it all depends on how much data you're actually transferring and how fast the receiving end is writing. That's another thing. Yeah. Because it'll only write to the slowest speed media, or not media, but memory bank or whatever that you're using. So, but if you're moving a bunch of data, you go from SSD or CF Express B to SSD, and that card's going to get hot. If you got 1,000 or more photos in there, I guarantee you that card's going to get hot. It won't burn your fingers, but I mean, it gets noticeably hot. So how does it do it? Because there's so much data moving that, and don't ask me how, it's not like it's moving parts or anything. You're absolutely right. But that's just the function of moving data from one medium to another.
Well, think of it in this way. When you had tube TVs, the tubes got hot, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
There's no moving part in a tube. It's all electrons, baby. It's all electrons.
Even in your TVs today, there's a lot of heat that comes off that TV, and there's nothing moving in there.
Yeah.
It's just all
All
data.
electronics generate heat. The cheaper the electronic components, the more heat they generate
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. All right.
But I don't see where most. Well, I don't really see when it comes to the video. I mean, to me, if you're someone that's shooting, even if you're shooting a movie, even if you were like, okay, look how long, I mean, I'm sure Jerry Guionis, when he did, when the Z9 came out and he did that video with the singer, which came out phenomenal. I watched it every once in a while because I'm just amazed how wonderful that video came out. And, how many takes, you might have had to do multiple takes, I'm sure, for one reason or another. And that camera was running a lot. And, but, even if you were doing a full length movie, I mean, they're never filming a movie an hour straight, an actor blows a line or whatever, you got to say cut and you got to reset and start over, or a special effect doesn't come out right and they got to reset it up again. An explosion didn't go off when it's supposed to. They got to reset things again. They're not sitting there shooting it for an hour straight. I mean,
I want to know who films for an hour straight.
Nobody shoots for an hour straight.
Well, there is an argument out there that there are people that film recitals and things like that, dance recitals. There are people that do that or whatever. And if you're going to do it all in body, then you're going to experience some of these, I won't say issues, but some of the bumps. But for indie filmmakers and that, the excitement is that you can do it in body. And nobody's offering that just yet, but that's coming across the manufacturers, no doubt. But you can do it in body, and that makes it so flexible and so easy just to go out and do a run and gun and things like that without a recorder on the camera like a Ninja 5. And those that are shooting true indie style, they're probably shooting with a recorder monitor on the camera or attached to the camera that's capturing all the,
most of the time anyway.
Yeah. So, but you have the ability to do it without that. That's what makes this camera unique. That's what makes the Z9 unique, is it gives you the opportunity to do it. I mean, you'd be a fool to go out and try to shoot a indie film or a movie with a Z9 or Z8 without it being recorded elsewhere, which is another issue, that we can't do dual recording in video with the Z8 or the Z9. Actually, Nikon doesn't offer that. Why has that become an issue? Because before you could do anything, you could only record to the Ninja 5, and that wasn't an issue. Why is it an issue now that we can't do it in body? I don't know. But, and I've seen comments about this isn't a truly pro camera, especially for videographers, because you can't shoot redundant video on the other card. When could you do that? And who else does it? And these are the things nobody ever adds. They just bring it up as an issue to run down a camera or whatever, but they never talk about, so-and-so and such does or whatever. And I'm sure there are recorders, external recorders out there that may have redundant capture, but I don't know of them because I'm not one of those big video indie type folks or whatever. And yes, cine cameras may offer it in some way, shape, or form, maybe through a recorder. But again, back to a camera that you're carrying around, you can take photos of your dog playing in the backyard and then go film in 8K raw. I mean, come on,
yeah. What more do you want?
and someone, to add a little joke to the thing, I used to do. I was a stagehand for dance recitals when I was young. I knew the daughter. My sister went to a dance school, and they had recitals. And I knew the daughter of the owner of the school, and I ended up moving props and stuff in between, the skits with the different dancers coming out. So even with that, you're going to turn the camera off, because when they shut down the curtains to change the sets, you're not going to be filming anything then. So yeah. Even with that, you're not shooting for an hour straight. Believe me.
We got you, Andy. Andy has returned.
Hey guys,
Hey, Andy.
Where's your Z8? They didn't give it to you yet, huh?
it will be collected on the 26th.
All right.
Well,
Jeff and Leslie have to run. Jeff, as always, man, thanks for being in here. Again, folks, the link is, I'm going to pull the plug here pretty soon. I've got to run to the grocery store and prepare for the arrival of my beautiful bride this evening. So, but if you'd like to join, by all means, jump in here for the amount of time that we have left. I'll drop the link one more time for those that might want to jump in here for the last few minutes. David, it's been great having you in here today.
Hey, thank you.
You've been relatively quiet, but I noticed you're following the chat and adding to the chat, and that's exactly what I love to see happen. I love the sidebars that go on in the chat as well. I haven't asked this today, and man, so many people have been through here. I should have asked it earlier. I'm not asking for subscriptions, but I am asking for likes. I always enjoy the likes. It makes me feel good. So if you haven't liked and you're in here still, please drop a like. I appreciate it so much. All right. So Andy, you got your chores done?
Yeah, I had to go and have a meeting, and now I'm back, and it's not rained on me yet today, so that's good. I'm just looking out the window.
Okay.
So I heard a tiny bit. Where do you want to go? Do you want what I know about the Z8 and how it's been tested by others?
Yeah, sure.
Or do you want to wait 2 weeks until I've done mine?
No, I mean, we were talking about Matt Granger and there are a few others that have tested, but I think we beat that.
There's three people and Tom Hogan who have done tests. Matt Granger has done the most transparent testing, and his results are at one level shocking if they're repeatable, at another level concerning. So my first question for Matt and the Chinese guy, who may be in Japan, is what cards did you use? I get it. They say they were doing it 20 degrees C ambient. What cards did you use? If you're using this card, he holds it up, which is the Sabrent Rocket. It's CF Express Type B 2, which is the new, as of last year, the new very, very fast card. You can write anything you like to this. It's 2 terabytes. You can write 8.3K, fills the card. You can write 120, fills the card. Not a problem. Anything smaller in terms of data, it hits the 2 hours and 5 minutes limit. Haven't done ProRes. I think ProRes eats more capacity.
Yes.
When I write to this card in camera, or this, which is an 8 terabyte Sabrent Rocket NVMe, it gets hot. That is just electrical things moving.
Yeah.
As in electrons.
Electrons, yeah.
Electrons.
Current
Nothing
draw.
physically is moving other than electrons, right? They get hot. When you use your phone a lot, it gets hot. This is just the nature of these things.
Right.
There's a young lady I've been communing with in Botswana who's just bought a second Z9 because she's typically shooting in 36 to 38 degrees centigrade. So hot.
Yes.
Already. You need a temperature difference to cool. If there's no temperature difference, you aren't going to cool.
Right.
And she's very concerned by what that Chinese guy who lives in Japan, who climbs up mountains and shoots in the freezing cold, showed us, which is 4 minutes, 5 minutes. So Matt's numbers are for the highest possible resolution, the highest everything. The card shuts down, the camera shuts down, the Z8 in those highest resolution. I'm just looking up his numbers. Quite quick. Quite quick being, I can't find it. I haven't written it down. So look at Matt's stuff. Look at his, has published a list in the notes below about his results. I think somebody said that earlier hadn't done that. And that's for video shooting. For stills, it's simple with the Z8. if you want to do a backup, don't write to 2 cards at the same time. Do what Tom Hogan said, which is finish your shooting or for a segment or whatever, click, 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 and then copy to the SD card. Copy the bunch.
Mhm.
Back up that way. You won't slow the camera down in use. There was a comment, the buffer's different. No, physically, it's got a certain amount of gigabytes or megabytes in it. It's the same. It's just the ability of the camera to offload onto the card. Okay? If it's offloading a V90, which is the fastest UHS 2 SD card speed of 300 megabytes a second, it's not offloading at 1400 megabytes a second, which is what this card does.
Right.
And this is the point, guys. For some reason, Nikon chose to stay with the CFX Type B and the SD profile of card slots. I don't like it, but I'm not going to not buy the camera. I just did, and I'm getting it. I'll just shoot to this.
Yeah, if you're worried about just put the CFEB card in slot 1 and be done with it.
Yeah, I've not broken one of these, but I get it. If you're on a shoot and it's a very expensive shoot, you pull this card, you put it in your thingy, your wallet, you pull another card and put it back in again. I've never broken one of these.
Yeah.
Now, Tom Hogan's right. Do that copying trick. That's fine. So the problem with Matt's test, and I think you highlighted this, Chuck, is he did the shoot to one card, one file type, 20 frames per second, and it's like in a footnote. It didn't slow down, right? Or it ran out at 400 shots. I can't remember. But as soon as he went into backup mode, of course it slowed down. Of course it did. It's trying to offload that volume of data into a very slow card, a relatively.
It's going to slow down. The buffer is going to get slowed down because of the card.
It's only going to go as fast as the fastest runner, is what we would say in the Army.
Slowest runner, but
Slowest runner.
Slowest runner, yeah.
And in my case, the slowest fat old runner or roller. So for me, I stopped shooting RAW and JPEG at the same time a very long time ago. I stopped shooting backups at the same time quite a long time ago. All this says is when you get your Z8, shoot to CFE, but buy good, fast cards.
Just froze.
If you don't need these old things, there's a 32 gigabyte XQD. That was in my Z7 until I had to use it to shoot the lowest codex video in my Z9 because I'm doing
XQDs still.
XQD.
I'm still using them too.
Yeah, that's a 32. I don't think I've ever put this in the camera. Another camera. I just did it because I was shooting whatever the lowest codex is. 8-bit something horrible. 1080p.
That's interesting because, and not to get off track here, but I have a bunch of XQD cards, obviously, from the D4 and D5 and D850 days. And I actually
SD cards.
Yeah, I actually used them in the Z9, and if I'm shooting in the studio, they work great.
Yeah. This is my D500 wallet. It's full of these old SD cards, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So the point is, guys, the longest ever, you've said it, Chuck, the longest ever burst I've shot, and that was the leopard coming down the tree, running away, and I've turned it into a video, was, I don't know, 5 seconds, 6 seconds.
Yeah.
That's 120 shots, 140 shots, right, in one burst. Did the camera slow down, Z9? No. Will the Z8? No, because I'm not going to put the stupid slow card in there. So I get why people like doing forever. I get that, and we've all done it, and we've all heard it. I used this and one of the new Delkin Black. So Delkin Blacks come out with a new generation of slightly faster, super fast cards.
Yeah.
They're just in different multiples. So the 650 is the fast one. Whatever you come down in sizes. Only the very smallest is not as fast. and it never slowed down. It just kept going. I
Yeah.
don't remember. I think I got to about 900 shots and it stopped.
So I understand that the Z8 will give you a warning for card overheating and a warning for camera.
As the Z9 does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously that's something that everybody's going to get to test real quick. And if the card overheats before the camera, well, then there we go. We're back to it's
Well,
not.
you could still shoot once the card says it's getting hot. You could still shoot for a while before you get to the camera being too hot.
So
Oh,
the
but-
Angel Bird AV Pro Mark II, which I've had in the Z9, trying to get it over 1 hour and I think 15 minutes at 4K 120p. And who on earth would shoot 4K 120 for more than a few minutes anyway?
Yeah.
But I just did.
Yeah.
It wouldn't go longer. You get a hot warning on that card, hot card warning after about, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. And then it
Yeah.
sits there. It just sits there. And then all of a sudden it turns off at about an hour and 8 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
You leave it for 10 minutes, start again.
So I wanted to jump over to the Z8 to Roy's chagrin. And I understand, Roy, I understand. But I did want to address some of these reviews that have come out about the Z8 and where, Roy's great. He can ignore it all. He knows. and that's
I'm
great.
less interested in cameras than I am in the lenses and the lighting.
Yeah, but there are so many that have been upset about this, and it goes back to it's common sense, which is not so common anymore. And if you've been shooting for more than a couple of years, you understand the trials of a SD card, even though they've made some advancements with the SD cards, but you already know that there's going to be a limitation there with an SD card in the camera. Why would it be then that now all of a sudden you see a review if we're shooting to both cards and it's slower? Why would that surprise you? You know that's coming if you've been shooting more than a couple of years.
Because it's not what they want.
Well,
They want something different. So they have to find a reason. Right?
Yeah, this is the old trying to put 18 ounces of soda in a 12-ounce cup. You can't do it. That's not the way it works.
So we can go to the Z7 III 61 megapixel. And my question is, I believe the X-Speed 7 needs a fast sensor that can give us that dual channel output.
Dual stream,
the dual streaming output.
Yep.
And if you want a 61 megapixel full frame camera, there isn't a sensor like that that's out in production today in terms of in a camera. The 61 in the R7 AR7 V is very slow. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not an X-Speed 7 capable sensor as far as I can guess, and the engineers will tell us the facts.
Oh, this is why Wayne Maddox keeps talking about on the video side, talking about putting a fan in the camera, which I am not a fan of. But I guess if Nikon wanted to be absolutely video centric and move a camera into that category, then they would put a fan in it or whatever. But for the amount of shooters, the all arounder, they don't want a fan. They don't want they don't want the noise. If there is noise, they don't want the weather sealing issues that might come with that and so many other things. And of course, it's going to be a little bit larger body to put some kind of a cooling system in it. Not to say Nikon won't down the road have a more video centric camera.
Sure.
But right now, these are the things that we have to deal with, and technology has come far enough that we at least can use these functions.
So there's the Canon C, R5 or R6C, which is the cinema line.
And the R5C, yeah.
Is it 5C? Yeah.
Yeah.
So first, yes, it has a built-in fan. Second, you can shoot stills, but I'm not sure how good it is. It's got a completely different operating system, so it's been designed to be a purely cinema camera. And but they also have the R5.
Yeah.
There's a Panasonic, some people call it the Lego camera that you can bolt things on,
Yeah.
and you can write to an SSD through something that you can bolt onto it. I think the fan is inside. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the box cameras. Yeah, the box Cine cameras. Mhm.
And you've got Panasonic Lumix thing.
Yeah.
And I think, is it Fuji where they've got the bolt-on?
Well,
it's one of those.
yeah.
So that's it. In the whole of the pantheon of cameras available in hybrid mode, and one of which is definitely a cinema camera, that's it in terms of cooled sensors. Red, in the last few days, has just launched an upgrade to the Komodo, and it's slightly bigger, and it's definitely got a vast amount more cooling in it, active cooling, huge heat sink. That is a genuine cinema camera,
Right.
and they struggle with heat. It's called hot red. It's when your red cameras die because they overheat, so you need a dozen of them, right? That's nasty to red, but it happens to everybody. So I'm with you. Matt Granger said he shoots B-roll for hours. Really? In 8.3K? Hours and hours and hours of it? Really? His cutting room must be full of delete. Yeah.
Well, if he does, then it's successful.
Well,
so that doesn't prove anything. But I know he also has a box camera. I don't know which, but he does use it for video stuff. But
he's done a great job, and he's doing a great job, and I have nothing against him. I just worry about what tech he's using.
The only thing I have against him, Andy, is the fact that let's add a little more to the story. Let's give all the facts, and let's ask some questions. It's easy enough to make the statement that, look, if you aren't going to do X whatever, then this is never going to affect you. Because, unfortunately, now we owe that to people when we're doing a review, because they immediately jump the gun and you didn't tell them, hey, you make them think, well, you know what, you're right. It's never going to bother me. No matter what the limitation might be.
Yeah. And that's, if you are a professional cinematographer, you plan your shoots. And one of the constraints you apply to that planning is, I've got 15 minutes with this camera body until it overheats. Well, you buy 2 or 3, right? You bring 2 or 3 to the set. You don't just bring 1. If you're shooting in the desert, the Dune team struggled massively with their huge, great cameras in the heat. They used to put cool packs onto the red cameras. Amusingly, you can see photos of these cool packs.
This is the reason. Yeah, this is the reason some people had their A10A, was it the Astro camera? They actually sent them off and had them. There's somebody that puts active cooling in the body for those. And you're talking about long. Long exposures. I mean, they're taking long exposures.
It has to be cool.
So Astro, you heat the lenses so they don't fog up, and you cool the sensor.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's crazy, but of course they do.
Hey, Discover Nature Now says, since the Z8 only has JPEG in pre-burst mode, which is true, it actually matters to me how big the buffer is. I like the Canon R8 for the raw pre-burst option. Okay, well, it doesn't matter. What does it matter with the Z8? With the JPEG pre-burst? The buffer will run forever.
Well, this is interesting that something Tom Hogan said on his Paul's photo chat. The way the buffer pre-burst seems to work is this: when you fill the buffer, it has to completely empty, so it's not a rolling buffer. And I hadn't heard that before. In other words, you get 30 seconds or a minute or whatever it is, the buffer's full, and then the camera dumps the lot. So you don't get your 30 seconds of rolling buffer. And Roy's nodding, so I'm guessing I'm not too far away.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah. And Tom said that's been given as feedback to Nikon, and Nikon are working on it. So here we are hoping that we can have a rolling buffer, as in it doesn't just empty, it can dump. I don't know how you do it, because these are sequential writes, I think, Roy. Is that right? Into the modern cards? I don't know how they work.
You can't use an R8 in a comparison anyway. It's only a 24 megapixel sensor.
Well,
And it takes longer to turn on, so you lose that
know,
buffer
I
anyway.
mean,
and they're all front side illuminated, and
Well,
There's-
all that aside, explain to me why a JPEG only in pre-burst or pre-capture mode wouldn't have a deep buffer.
No, it's not the buffer, it's how the buffer works, right? So if it's 30 seconds times 120 times 11 megapixels, that the buffer is 39.6 gigabytes. Is that right, Roy? You do the maths
Yeah,
for me.
something like that. I didn't.
Yeah, this is JPEG, so it won't save as large as the
Yeah.
megapixels. So let's halve it. All right, divide by 2. So that buffer's maybe 20 gigabytes. You got 20 gigabytes. It's filled sequentially, okay, and then something about how the pre-burst works. It fills and has to empty it all when it's full. Unlike normal shooting, which is a file is put in the buffer and then rolled off and saved, and that slot is then used for the next one. There's something about the 120 images per second and the buffer. And
Probably
how
got separate memory for it.
Yeah, there's some way. And obviously, if Tom Hogan and the Nikon guys have had a conversation, one can hope that they understand and there was a reason that they did it. And let's say you can only use it for 15 seconds on a rolling basis and 30 seconds on a non-rolling basis. I'd go for the rolling basis because it's in my head. I've got
The
those.
pre-capture's a lot less critical on the Nikon Z9s because they turn on so quick.
Well,
Most
yeah,
cameras take a
there's
second or two to turn on.
there's some sports shooters who love it, okay, because they're shooting JPEGs anyway, and they're probably on 30 frames a second, not 120. But okay, so for all of these things, none of us around on this forum have touched and used a Z8. We're listening to great people like Steve and Matt Irwin and Matt Granger who've tested it and said in their hands, it's great. And yet people are digging on that little negative here and there.
They've
Well,
got to
yeah,
find something to
and-
whinge about.
Yeah, and again, that's the reason I want to address it, Andy, because you guys don't follow everything the way I do because I have a live stream and I'm going to get asked these questions. I get emails about it. I get comments on the streams about it. And what I'm trying to do is, as stupid as this sounds, educate people, use common sense. Let's think about this for a minute. It's an SD card, for example. It's not going to have the same write speed. You know that. I'm just reminding you now so that you realize, oh, yeah, that's right. I get it. If you don't shoot to the SD card, if you only shoot to the CF Express B card, it's going to change your buffer. It's going to change your frame rate. It's going to change all these things. So, think about that. Yes, there is a limitation, meaning you can't write to 2 cards simultaneously unless you're shooting at a lot slower rate. But then again, that's part of the compromise for a smaller body. Evidently, Nikon had to do that.
No, let's not put that out there. As far as we know, and those of us that have tried to ask have had this back to us, the buffer is the same size.
Well,
yeah. And the Z9.
This is what caught me off guard with the Matt Granger video is it's the exact same pipeline, the exact same internals. How could it be slower? The only reason it could be slower, that I could see physically is the fact that you are writing to a SD card. Otherwise, writing to the CF Express B card, it's going to mimic what the Z9 does.
So when I put a Delkin Black, one of the new ones, not the old one, which is what that is, it doesn't slow down in the Z9. Matt Granger wasn't using, I'm sorry, as far as I can see, he was using one on the old approved Nikon list. He wasn't using the latest generation CFXE cards.
Yeah.
But Matt Granger isn't really a technical type person.
He's a lovely
more of a
guy.
photographer.
But we've tried to ask him. Matt Irwin actually answered the question on the comment I made on the YouTube.
Yeah,
and he said, "No, it works fine for me."
Yeah,
and so let us have a tiny bit of time to get the thing in our hands to actually do some more tests. And as everybody said, we want to see more tests done benchmark style first. So control temperature, the fastest cards, turn everything else off. What does it do? And then people can take that camera out into the heat. So I think your V's guys yesterday were going to go and shoot somewhere warm.
Yeah.
with their Z8,
Well,
like
I've shot
40
with the
degrees
Z9
centigrade
and
or
40
somewhere
plus
in
degrees
Nevada.
Celsius.
They're out
Celsius.
in Arizona. Yeah.
Not Fahrenheit, Celsius.
Yeah.
Yeah, Celsius.
And I'd be surprised if they can shoot video for very long at all. Right?
Yeah.
But then I'm not shooting, except if it happens right in front of me, a cheetah in anything because of heat haze. Right?
Yeah.
So you got to be right next to the thing in that heat. Right? So I think for all of these things, the real practicalities are get it in your hand, get somebody who you can trust has done the test using the gear you want to use or you've worked out is right for your objective. So in my case, I knew I was going to shoot 8K very fast, lots of it. So I bought the fastest card I could. Right? That's what I did. I'm not putting that in to shoot 8K. That's the 32 megabyte one. I'm putting the 2 terabyte in, which fills after, hang on, where's my total? It fills after 46 minutes.
Yeah.
8K, 60p, 12-bit, high quality, NRAW, NLOG, 46 minutes and 45 seconds. And I've done it half a dozen times now on a Z9. Not a problem. 4K 120, 1 hour and 8 minutes on that card. And who on earth is shooting 4K 120p for that long?
Straight, not just in bursts, but straight. Yeah.
Straight, just straight, flat out. Which is nuts.
Nobody.
Nobody.
Unless you're following an Olympic runner in the marathon.
What you're doing a pacing analysis.
Yeah.
So documentary guys might do it, but really?
Yeah.
You know, people travel. I traveled with 40 terabytes of storage to Kenya for a 3-week trip, and I filled a little bit over 20. And I've shot more video, 8K, more 20,000 shots. If I had gone crazy nuts with this, I could have filled a lot.
Yeah.
I can't process the thing. I've got so many hours of line shots. Yeah, I think we all want pre-burst in RAW.
Yeah, and everybody verbalized that as soon as it came out. They came out in a firmware update, and people were questioning why you couldn't do it in RAW. So if it came out, period, in a firmware update, is there the possibility that they would be working on that for RAW as well?
Well, I can only guess so. I mean, so there's a wonderful, horrendous thread on DP Review Nikon mirrorless forum. Now the hoopla over the Z8's over. What are we going to get now? You know what where it's going to. It's the D500 replacements,
ZFC,
everything under the
full
sun.
frame.
But the one that I found interesting is what's coming out for Paris, as in the Olympics in Paris next year. There's a lot of talk about the R1, which has got stuck somewhere because we think they're trying to do this total sensor thing.
Might have been delayed taking the shutter out.
Well, I think now, given how good the rest of the Canon lineup is, they're struggling to see what's the value proposition for the R1. You know, that R3 is great, and it's 24 megapixels. It's great, good enough for pro shooting.
Very close to a Z9.
You know, Canon guys like Canon guys. All the buttons are in the wrong place, and you've got to understand use cases if you want to talk autofocus. Nikon is Nikon. Nikon does it Nikon's way, and Sony does it Sony. So, yes, and so the conversation went to, is there going to be a Z9 update? Because it's been 2 years, and when we had the D3, we had the D3X, and then we had the D3S, I think, in 2-year cycles. I think that's right. Maybe in the other way around. So are we going to get a Z9 something? And I don't mean 61 megapixels. Maybe it's a something. It's a something. So the R1 spec is going to have 2 processors. That's the rumor on Canon rumors. 2 Digix processors. Does that mean they're going to get their Z7 II moment or Z6 II moment when it's same as the old one in certain people's views? Or is it so much better? So with Nikon, we don't know. We genuinely don't know what's
Well,
going
no, we don't. I mean, that we never know, and I mean that's not a surprise to us. I mean,
No.
that's one of the things we're kept
We
in the
love it.
dark. There are no hints or anything else, and I'm not saying put out a camera roadmap. That would be nice, but I don't see any of them doing it. I don't know why that's an issue, other than people would get their hopes up about something that Nikon might want to change. That I understand, but yes, it does beg the question, though, Andy. The Z8 is basically the Z9. Is the flagship going
Same
to mimic
inside.
a prosumer camera, or is the flagship going to go a step above? And so that does, that could indicate that there is something in the works and that the Z9 might get an update quicker than we expect.
Or
And Tom
Z1.
Hogan wrote this in his column a few months back, talking about he expected something sooner rather than later. There's no timeline established in that other than sooner rather than later. So, yeah, I agree. I think that there may be an S version or a 2 version or
Or
something.
Z1.
Well, I'm not going to let that fall away either. That is a possibility. I don't know when I would jump on that bandwagon, but yes, the Z8 being the Z9, who else on the market has that? Nobody. Who else has ever had that? Nobody. Yeah. And I'm not complaining about it. I think it's a wonderful thing, but it could be an indicator. So, and you know me, Andy, I like to speculate. I like to get my hopes up.
I'm equally in the same camp. Nigel Atherton at Amateur Photographer, which is a British magazine, interviewed, I'll get his name right, Keiji Osaishi, who's the department manager for UX planning and imaging business unit. So he's pretty high up in the business unit that makes this stuff.
Right.
And I want to start with, I got myself in trouble on a certain forum, which I like, but okay. Firstly, I don't think English is his first language, but okay. What he said, because he was asked the question, which everybody's been asked, is if the Z8 and Z8 is just the Z9 interiors in a smaller body, which is, okay, take that. What's the Z9 for? Well, they're selling as many Z9s now as they ever have, because there's a market for pro shooters who want that, I'm going to use the following words, more robust, larger, bigger battery, Ethernet port that you can lock away, tie down with a security strap, etc. They want that they don't want to have to tie a power bank and another dongle and the other things that can get pulled out. So if you're setting up a remote or something, there's enough people that want that. And the differences right now are opaque to some of us because we haven't had it. The only difference I think that you raised earlier, Chuck, was, okay, maybe because of the smaller form factor, the Z9, Z8 will get a bit more heat. So what he said was the Z8 was made to address a wider market demand, but with the same capabilities.
Yep.
The Z9 is for those shooters who want that ultimate durability and higher volume still shooting, greater video recording times, quote, as required of a flagship model. So I think it actually sounds very clear. The Z9's the flagship, the Z8's the prosumer version, slightly smaller, slightly easier to use. They're both the same on the inside. Let's move on. That's basically what he said. And of course, the internet's gone a bit nutty on that, but okay. So from my perspective, from your perspective, I think, guys, Z8, same camera, just in a smaller body. Some things will be different because it's got different slots and smaller battery and down. But none of those
battery life.
No, well, so the 15C is 40% of an 18D. It weighs. It costs about $100. I think I'm looking for some.
$72 US.
$72 plus tax and 100 quid here.
Yeah.
If somebody tells me they're going to put a battery grip on a Z8 with 2 batteries in it versus carrying 1 extra battery, I think there's something going wrong in here. Because
I'm not getting the grip.
You don't need the grip. You just carry
No.
another battery.
I won't get the grip.
Yeah.
I always have extra batteries.
Yeah, you just carry extra batteries. And if you've been in the ecosystem for a long time, I think most of us have got D850s. You've got the 15C already. Yeah.
I've got a dozen or so.
Yeah. And what's the issue? Genuinely, what's the issue? The only people that there might be an issue for are video shooters. Okay, stick in a power bank. DTAP your whatever, right?
Deja vu. Yeah.
Yeah. We've all said it.
While you were away, we were talking about it as well, and I brought all that up.
Yeah.
But that's the whole point. Is there are people that if nothing else, maybe when we talk about this, it settles the nerves of some people that think, "Wait a minute, you're right. Why didn't I think of that? I know better. Why am I concerned with this or whatever?" Same thing with the SEPA rating. People that have been in photography for 15 years, and they're saying, "Well, I don't know, man. That battery rating so low." Have you never seen that before? I mean, have you never paid attention to that?
You should know by now to ignore that rating.
Yes,
It's not real life.
But it takes us to remind them again that, hey, you know what? Don't worry about that.
Just
Again.
take the number, divide by 2, and that's typically the amount of time you can turn the camera on for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
120 minutes.
And again, when it comes to that, I'm not going to worry about it because I've seen this before so many times with every camera that's announced. Same thing over and over and over. Why would it bother somebody now that's been shooting for 15 years? They have to know that information already. However, it seems at times you got to remind them, don't worry about it. The same thing happened with the Z9, with the D850, with the D5, with the whatever. The SEPA rating will never give you a true use of the battery. And guess what? Your use will be different than my use. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for us who are owners, just hasn't arrived yet, I'm going to shoot that Z8 until it dies. It's not going to be a problem. I'm going to carry the batteries. I'm going to shoot it with the cards that support whatever I'm shooting, be it the slow old XQD or the ridiculously huge super fast thingy. I'm not worrying about it at all.
Well,
what I do worry about is Eleanor in Botswana, where it's so hot, and she wants to. Matt's test, by the way, was 11 minutes at 4K, at 8K in Hong Kong on the Z8, and that's the small till the camera shut down. And again, for me, that sounds like an older card, but we don't know.
Well, again, see, just this conversation, though, Andy, is good for those that are on the fence or still worried or whatever. Hearing this conversation go on, that's why it's important to do this, because there are so many people out there that are riding the fence on whether they get it or they don't.
Sure.
And when they hear, when they hear all these things that they consider a problem, and then hear a logical discussion about how it's really not probably a problem for them, it helps out tremendously. And there are people that'll take these tidbits of information like the Matt Granger video, and they'll run with it to negate this camera just because they want to. They're looking for problems associated with the camera to be able to run it into the ground or talk bad about it or whatever. And it's good that we have these conversations from time to time to let them know, just like you said, bottom line is none of us can speak absolute here. However, the camera will be out soon and then you can test for yourself. But if you're on the fence and you're worried about some of these things, let's go back to common sense. Let's think about it a minute. Is it really an issue for you? Not just because they say it's an issue. Is it an issue for you? Again, that's the reason we have these conversations.
Yeah. The camera was launched 1 week ago today. Yeah. In 1 week, Matt, a Chinese guy, a couple of others have done some tests. There's been a lot of YouTube video. In 2 more weeks, there will be exponentially more. In a month, there'll be exponentially more. There'll be a series of books. There'll be a lot more actual solid test benchmarks done. And if you're on the fence, just wait a minute. Just take a beat, as they say. Just take a beat. You're already too late to get in the first order queue. Sorry, that list is full.
You're going to
So
be
you're
waiting
gonna wait
a minute anyway.
We don't know whether the 12,000 is the right number, and we don't know when this calms down after the first week what it's going to look like. But wait a minute, just pause. Don't, once you've spent your money, it's gone, right? That's the old adage.
Yeah.
So if you're on the fence, stay on the fence, keep just shooting with what you've got. That the body of evidence, which I mean, there was a test that can be repeated by somebody else. This is the old scientific test, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's only evidence if somebody else can do what you just did in the same controlled circumstances, right? So Matt's done his, others are doing theirs. I will do mine. I'm going to post mine, and we'll share these things. And Nikon certainly is keeping their eye on this. And then we'll see. You'll actually get hard evidence, right? Not a bloke in the pub told me, the best source of internet data.
Yeah.
Canon rumors rating Alpha Sony rumors where they give it a 1 score, not a 5 score, whatever it is. These are all 1 scores or zeros. Somebody in a pub said, right? Matt did better than that. We have to give him his due. He took time out to do tests that can't have been short, right? Because he measured when this heat sign came on, that heat sign. I'm just sad if he used very old cards, but okay.
Yeah. And again, it's not that I have nothing against him testing and what he did. And I think his outcome was what he said it was. But I go back to, again, people don't, again, let's talk about use case. And again, my battery life's going to be different than yours. My usage with video is going to be different than yours, and all these things. These are worst case, hammering the camera to see what it will do nonstop or whatever. And my only not gripe, but concern is that people don't understand. He didn't put that out. He didn't say, "Hey, folks, wait a minute. This isn't as bad as it seems, depending on what you do, blah, blah, blah." I would just like to see that addition, because there are people that are actually going around quoting, "Oh man, the camera overheats," or whatever, or blah, blah, blah. The cards overheat, or you only get this much life out of the battery, or blah, blah, blah. And it takes conversations like this to settle everybody down again.
Well, it won't though.
I mean,
This, Chuck. People like heat these days. It's either you take a photo of yourself doing something stupid, or you make a nasty comment that gets clicks. It's one or the other.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to say, we can all go around saying, "Hey, just wait till the camera comes out." That's an excuse to overlook problems in their minds. Well, you can't just say that to them. I know you don't care. I know it's like,
you take something that affects 1% of the users, and those 1% try to make it out that it's going to affect 100% of the users.
Yes.
That's the problem.
So I'm with you all. 4,000 whatever currency you're in is not free. Okay.
Yeah.
Got that. So the market's segmented down already. Lots of us have got the 6 and 7 variants. Some people have got the 5s. The people who've got the 5 and want the 20 megapixel, they're the ones. That sensor's 12 years old, as far as I remember.
Yeah.
The people on the 5 ought to be seeing an upgrade. So I can hypothesize there'll be a 5.3 and a ZF.
Wow.
The same internals very soon. Before the 6 and the 7 get an upgrade.
Andy,
I can hypothesize what I like.
I love hearing you say that, because I was the petulant child when I was telling everybody that Nikon needed to get off the pot and do something and get these cameras out. And look where we are now. It's amazing. If Nikon.
This is an inside joke, by the way, those of you who are watching, between me and Chuck, because I was the one that cast him petulant child.
Still love you, though. Still love you.
But so let people. We can't. It's up to them. They can say what they like if it's not slanderous or libelous. They can do what they like, but it only matters when they do this. They open this and they take this out, right?
Yeah.
As I had to do today.
Yeah.
At the point that they actually tell somebody the numbers on this thing and the money goes out the door, is
hold that up to the camera. What is it? Hold it up to the camera. What is it?
I'm not holding it up deliberately. I'm holding. There's my PIN number, and So, and I believe the following to be true. 2 of my suppliers have said they've never sold out a camera as quickly, a pro level camera, as the ZA.
Yeah.
By far, the majority of people are trading up from a D850.
Yeah.
By far,
Yeah.
some are trading up from a D500. Because as Tom Hogan said, a Z8 is a D500, just 1,000 times better. In DX crop, it's 19.5 meg. It just is 1,000 times better. Okay, and it's a bit more expensive. And we're not going to see a D500 replacement tomorrow.
Right.
Still a good camera even today.
It's a fantastic camera. I had one for a long time.
Still got one.
I sold mine. I sold all bar one F mount, which was the tilt and shift lens. So for all of these things, I get it. You want something slightly better than the 6.2 and the 7.2. Okay, they're blooming good cameras, but okay, you want something fine. But please set a reasonableness on what you're willing to pay and what you're expecting to get from it. Because at the minute we're like this, right?
I wish we could, but that's never going to happen because even with the people want the Z8 at $2,900, we're never going to hit that point where people are happy to get what they get at the price point they get it at. They're going to want a Z9 and a $1,000 body, and oh, by the way, the size of a
postage stamp
deck of cards.
Yeah. So I think the unknowns to us muggles, as I've started to have this conversation with people, is we're not insiders. We're not camera engineers. Some people think they are, but we're not in those engineering teams. If the XP7 needs to be fed by a certain type of sensor, and you want a 61 megapixel FX, or at least a 26, which gets you 6K, or probably a 30 in DX side, then that tech has got to be delivered at a price. And if you don't want stacked BSI, then you're not going to get an XP7. You're going to get something else. And that tech's got to be built.
Yeah.
So I think, again, the rumors about a camera later in the summer, okay. I have no idea what's coming next.
I don't
Could
either.
be a cinema body. Could be, who knows, right?
Yeah.
But if you want it at this price point, then look to the other brands. What are you actually getting? Is it the R7 has got only SD cards, and the R10's only got SD cards?
Not that I know of.
CFEs? Is it? What are you actually getting? And don't assume that everybody's going to follow you, or throw everything in the bin. Buy a Fuji XHS2S. Brilliant, fantastic micro 4/3 camera. Shoots really well. One of the guys I had lessons from, Andy Rouse, he's one of the, and he's if you think I'm obnoxious, he's really interesting. He's one of their pros. Loves it, right? So there are alternatives. If you're vested in Nikon like I am, and others are, you're going to find it very, very expensive to move from one system to the other. And even if you can do that, your fingers are in the wrong place. You don't know how to do the shots.
Yeah.
Anyway, my rant over for about 1 second.
No, it's good. Hey guys, I am going to have to shut this down. I've got to, like I said, I got a couple of things I've got to do before Mama arrives this evening. Roy just dropped.
Yep. Validate Andy's comments. The R7 and the R10 both use SD cards.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're going to be slow. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. Man, I'm really happy with everybody that joined us today. Everybody that was in the chat. I really appreciate everybody being there. It was an interesting conversation all around, not just the Z8 talk, but the black and white photo or shooting today. It was interesting to me. I hope it was to everybody else. I did learn quite a few things, and I do enjoy black and white photography, so I will keep doing that, and I hope everybody else will as well. You guys have anything last alibis to throw out there, Jeffrey?
No, as I said, I won't be with you Saturday,
Okay.
but I hope to be home early enough next Wednesday to be on Wednesday. So wish everybody happy shooting, and nice that you came and visited us and put up with us, and I appreciate your time.
All right, man. Mr. Drunk Wedding Photographer, David,
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
you're more than welcome, buddy. All right. And Andy?
So thanks again. And Jeff, I love the videos. I will look back at the stream I missed to see if you solved the conundrum. Is a monochrome camera worth it? Well, to you guys at least. And good luck, and I will think of you when I get a delivery.
All right.
Well, I'm on the list. I don't know how soon I'll get one, but I've been on the list for a while, so we'll see.
Oh, Roy said Power Surge killed half the house. That's where he went. Sorry, Roy. If you can, I don't know if he can hear or not, or he can watch it later. I hope everything works out for him.
I
All
think
right.
Roy must be in the middle of a field somewhere, but I've no idea. He could be anywhere.
Yeah. Now he seems to have a beautiful home with overlooks a valley into, what is it, Melbourne? Man.
Oh yeah, I mean Melbourne's like Scotland in the south. I mean, although it's the biggest city, so it's the city with the largest Greek population outside of Athens.
Wow.
Apparently,
We'll start a rumor that a croc chewed his power feed the house.
there's all these cannon shooters outside chopping power poles down.
Oh man. All right, folks. Again, I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the day. I know I will. My beautiful bride will be here tonight. Can't wait for her to arrive. Thanks for putting up with me today. All of you. That includes you, Andy, putting up with me.
Great. We need a bit of positive heat.
Yeah. Well, we'll be back Saturday night. Don't know what we're going to talk about. I never know, but you'll know with the thumbnail, and hopefully it's something else that's more positive photography related besides the Z8, unless there's some monstrous revelation that comes out between now and then, which I don't expect to happen. So again, thanks a lot. God bless you all. I will see you Saturday night for another live stream.
Take care, everyone.
Take care.
Be safe.